All right, welcome back. We are going to continue, as always, with the Old Republic, playing our queen, Jedi Consular, SWTOR. And let me switch over. I got to get my headphones good so I can hear. There we go. Then let me have you guys. You're able to hear what I hear. Be on the same page. Wouldn't that be awesome? Be kind of nice. There we go. Okay, cool. There we go. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I have anything to like react right now. I don't know how much. By the way, I don't know. I don't know how much I want to mix up like these sorts of streams with my politics stuff. I want to kind of keep it separate. That might be the way to go. Oh shit! Right off the bat. There we go. All right. I need to fix my my key bindings a little bit for this character. I know if you guys have watched it all, you probably saw me spending a lot of time fucking with the user interface to try to get like a decent button layout here. I think I have too many rows and columns though. Like the basically what happened was I had it really like nicely set up and like perfected for the way that I use the keyboard and everything, and I like to have it shown on my thing. And then when I was moving files around in order to install Helldivers because I needed to make space on my solid state drive, I didn't realize I deleted like the folder in my C drive that contained my user preferences for the Old Republic. So I lost my user interface. I had to rebuild it basically. Too many now. So basically, what I try to do here, if it isn't obvious, right? I got the center of your keys, like you know, the two keys that you have on your keyboard that have little notches on them, so you can kind of locate them. That's J and F. And so the idea is that basically my fingers, this key, this one's going on J, this one's going on F. Easy for me to always know where I'm at on the keyboard. And then I figure because I'm not using both hands to type like I usually do when I'm using like Microsoft Word or something, I'm just using this hand, and this hand goes on the mouse. This hand's on the keyboard. I want it to be centrally located. And then I have the keys in the middle. And basically I want to make it so that I'm really only moving these. I'm moving down, I'm moving up above them, and I'm moving to the side of them. So that's basically how I have the layout here. You can see that I have like way too many, because if I go past F, I go to D, I go to S, I go to A. The next button after A is caps lock. There's no reason for me to have this column here. Same thing on this side. If I go past J, I go to K, L. There's like the semicolon. There's like the quote symbol, whatever that is. And then there's enter. There's no reason for me to have this column either. So I think I want to get rid of these two columns here. I think that should be good. And then I was looking at the way I had it set up before in the past. Actually, no, that looks fine. I think if I just get rid of these two columns, it's a little too much. I don't think I don't really have use for all those extra keys. Not really necessary. Let's get rid of those columns. Log in his job. I mean, I don't even know if I need to have this extra row or a quick bar. I have this quick bar. If I expand this, I need to expand it by 1, maybe? Even then, I don't really see myself going all the way to A, but I'll just keep A just in case. Lots, we have 8, 10, I think that does it there. Do the same thing for these. And I think that keeps it simple, because, I mean, especially when I'm programming the keys, in a moment you'll see like where I have to program which ones go to which. There's just no real reason to have to struggle around with trying to find where those key slots are at. So what I mean by that is here to where the key bindings are at. I have to find, like, on the quick bar, okay, is it quick bar 1? Is it quick bar 2? That would have been 4 and 5. There's just no reason. I have the main quick bar 1, 2, and then 3 in this blocked, actually. But I do need to change the way it's bound now. So key 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 0. Apply that. And then key, quick bar, page 1. Quick switch to quick, I have no idea. Quick bar 2, we go Q, W, E, R, T, Y, Q, I, O, E. That's it. Yep. I'm kind of curious too, by the way. I'm from like when I was in school, like in elementary and middle school. This might sound crazy, but like we still practiced on keyboards. You know, keyboards were phased out, or not keyboards, but typewriters. Typewriters were obviously phased out, but you got to imagine like having a personal computer. In my generation, I'm a millennial. Personal computers weren't really super duper commonplace. They started becoming commonplace as I was growing up. And so not everyone was trained on how to use like a keyboard for using a computer at that time period. It sounds crazy, but that's true. The typewriter was still kind of part of the curriculum as something to be taught. So in case you don't know, because maybe this is just a little bit beyond your time, the layout of the keys on your keyboard for a computer matched the layout for the keys on a typewriter. And the reason I bring this up, I was just kind of curious because I wonder why the keys are laid out the way that they are. Typewriter key layout. Oh, I guess it's called QWERTY, right? QWERTY. Okay, so I'm just curious. Let's read it here. I think what happened was, I think the reason it gets laid out the way that it was, I think the person who came up with it was looking at what are the most common letters that you actually use in the English language. And I believe that's the reason it got laid out the way that it did. So conventionally, if you have your keys, or if you have your fingers on the keys, right, they're going to be from F to, I need to calibrate this one, but it'd be A, S, D, F, right, A, S, D, F. A is very common in the English language. S is pretty common. I suppose D and F are probably pretty common. And then you got on the other side J, K, L, and then you have a semicolon. Kind of curious on why the semicolon is the go-to there instead of maybe like the. But then again, I don't know if that's true on the keyboard or on the typewriter. Maybe the semicolon doesn't go there. Maybe it goes somewhere else. Okay, but let's read why this is what it is. The QWERTY design is based on a layout included in the Scholes and Glidden typewriters sold by E. Remington and Sons from 1874. The layout became popular with the success of the Remington No. 2, and it became the de facto standard for computers as of 2020. Oh, I guess they're saying still to this day, basically. Two prominent alternatives, Dvorak and Kolmark. Dvorak look. Okay. Have been developed in Europe. Two types of modified layouts, QWERTYs and AZERTY, are used prominently for German and French. The QWERTY layout was devised and created in the early 1870s by Christopher Lantham Scholes, a newspaper editor and printer who lived in Kenosha, Wisconsin. In 1867, Scholes filed a patent for the application. Imagine you're the one who just comes up with a layout and you can fucking patent that shit. The first model constructed on Scholes' piano-like keyboard with 2 rows of characters arranged alphabetically as shown. Scholes struggled for the next 5 years to perfect his invention, making many trial and error rearrangements of the original machine's alphabetic key arrangement. What's kind of interesting is if you're used to typing now at this point on a keyboard, you're used to where the keys are kind of located, and like your brain doesn't even think about it. Just like think about that for a minute, right? Like the placement is fairly arbitrary, right? It wasn't invented until like the 1860s, meaning humanity could have came up with a variety, and we did come up with a variety of different layouts. But like your brain is like subconsciously aware of where these letters are supposed to be on a fucking keyboard, and it's not built into like your. It's not like a inherent aspect of human like brain development. It's something that we've just trained ourselves, and we're so super used to it now. And we have like a neural shortcut circuit pathway that just kind of automatically puts us in that direction. It's kind of interesting to think about. But anyways, here, let me do this actually. Whoa, that's too big. That's what he said. This row? No, wrong. There we go. Change the opacity. It's not the best, but whatever. You guys will get used to it, or not. I don't know. Sorry, losers. Okay. Others consider this okay, hold on. Scholes started for the next 5 years. The study of Ingram frequency letter pair is a sequence of 2 adjacent elements from a string of tokens. Letters, okay. Brother of financial backer James Densmore was believed to have influenced the array of letters. Others consider this conjecture to be unfounded, suggesting instead that the letter groupings evolved from American Morse telegraph operators' feedback. Oh, but this is his old arrangement. I want to know what the current. Okay. So in 1868, he changed the arrangement of the letter half of the alphabet N to Z, right to left. In April, he arrived at a 4-row uppercase keyboard approaching the modern QWERTY design, moving 6 vowel letters to the upper row as follows. In 1873, Scholes' backer successfully sold the manufacturing rights to Scholes and Gildan typewriter E. Remington Sons. The keyboard layout was finalized within a few months by Remington mechanics and ultimately presented. After they purchased the device, Remington made several adjustments, creating a keyboard with essentially the modern QWERTY layout. These adjustments included replacing the R key in the place previously allotted to the period key. Supposedly, changes made to let salesmen impress customers by pecking out the brand name typewriter quote from the keyboard row. But this is not formally substantiated. Okay, but why? Unpopular but possibly invented QWERTY arrangement is that it was designed to reduce the likelihood of internal clashing of type bars by placing commonly used combinations of letters further from each other inside the machine. Okay, I can kind of see that. So like what they're getting at here is if you look at this image, this is like the internals of a keyboard. And so when you hit the key like these, it's almost like a piano. These I don't know what the hell you call these like pins would like pop up, and they'd have a letter with like ink on it, and it would hit this page, it would strike the page. And so I think what they're saying here is the idea is that you don't want to have letters that are often used next to each other, like side by side in a word. Like oftentimes A might come before, I don't know, it might come after one of these consonants. So you want to place A away from common consonants that it follows or it's in front of in a lot of words, and that way these pins don't wind up like hitting each other as they're trying to move up and down on the typewriter. That's a theory on why it's laid out that way. At least it says here. Okay. combine characters, contemporary alternatives, properties. Indeed, there's evidence that aside from the issue of jamming, placing often used characters further apart increases typing speed because it encourages alternation between the hands. Oh, that's also an interesting idea. Which is like if you're typing all the time and you're using like letters that are kind of similarly close to each other in a lot of words, then maybe that one finger is getting tired out versus having letters that don't often appear close together in words further apart means that you're using other fingers, right? Almost every word in the English language contains at least one vowel letter, but on the QWERTY keyboard, only the vowel letter A is on the home row, which requires the typist's fingers to leave the home row for most words. A feature much less commented on other than the order of the keys is that the keys do not form a rectangular grid, but rather each column slants diagonally. This is because the mechanical linkages, each key is attached to a... Oh, yeah, that's true. Interesting choice that they decided to maintain that in digital keyboards now, and that's not a problem. Basically what they're saying is the reason why the keys are staggered, they're not like right on top of each other, they're like slanted, is because the strokes of those pins, they can't be lined up with each other, right? They gotta be like side by side, right? So, but that makes sense, but it's maintained in modern keyboards. They still have that slant to them, interestingly enough. I guess it's just like the convention kind of tracing its way through technological development. And has been retained in most electronic keyboards. Some keyboards, such as the Kinesis, retain a QWERTY layout but arrange the keys. I kind of wish mine would. Oh no, never mind. Kinesis keyboard looks like AIDS. Okay, anyways, that was a weird tangent for no reason. I mean, it was for a reason. It's because we like information here. We like to learn. Learning is its own gift. Information is its own gift. I'm sorry, my hair looks fucking crazy in here. It looks better in person, but it looks... Without having my hair highlighted, it just looks like a weird fucking ball of fluff. Okay. I wish I could play music and stream it. It's illegal. I don't think it's necessarily, but... Well, no, it actually would be. Copyright infringement. I feel like a lot of you know copyright infringement from like getting strikes on YouTube and shit like that, but copyright infringement is actually like illegal. Like the law can come after you for it. The reason that websites like all these social media sites enforce it is because they would wind up becoming liable to law if they didn't enforce against it. But before the era of social media, you yourself as an individual, I mean, even today, that's still true. It's just what is law enforcement putting the resources behind. But, oh. Yeah, you would get the law would come after your ass for things like Napster back in the day for downloading music and whatnot when you didn't own the copyright to it. You might wonder, like, why would websites like Napster have existed anyways? Like, isn't that just on its face illegal? But it's my understanding that, like, let's say that you bought a CD back in the day. If you bought the CD, you had the copyright to that music. And so I believe, technically, legally, you technically have the right to make copies of it. Because, like, think about the etymology of that phrase that we kind of take for granted now. Copyright. You have the right to copy it, right? Because you bought it, you bought the use or the right to use it. So you also have the right to make copies of it for your usage, but it has to be for your usage, which is also why, like, or I guess one of the reasons why you have like rewritable CDs or like programs at that time period that allowed you to like copy CDs and stuff like that. Like you might ask yourself the same question: why would that like not on its face be something that would be illegal and the FBI come and crack down on like the sale of that technology and whatnot? It's because technically you should have had the right to make copies of your own CD, but it had to quote unquote be for your own use. Obviously people would make copies and give it to their friends, but I would never do that, obviously. A copyright is a type of intellectual property that gives its owner the exclusive legal right to copy, distribute, adapt, display, and perform a creative work, usually for a limited time. The creative work may be literary, artistic, and blah, 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 blah. Idea there. I might react to some of these dudes' channel, his content. I like it a lot. If you've seen my channel, sometimes I react to Tier Zoo, which I like a lot. It's basically like zoology stuff, but framed as kind of like a video game kind of metaphor, so to speak. So it's kind of fun and relatable, but I like learning about different animals. I found this guy recently who also has like a channel where he goes over different kinds of animals. It's also kind of funny the way he kind of talks about it, so I appreciate that. It's pretty relatable. So we might react to some of his videos. I'm trying to not mix up the political stuff with like the video game and movie stuff, so we'll see what we can do here. Oh, this is... Oh shit, I forgot. I need to actually... I need to actually change the layout of where I have my abilities. You know what would be fucking supreme? If you combine basically like all of the exploring and MMO aspects of a game like this, but with the combat style of a game like Jedi Survivor. And yeah, I know, it probably wouldn't be... I wouldn't expect the combat to be on par with Jedi Survivor. Right? I just don't expect a game with like this much content, this many ways of doing customization to perfect the combat of like every different fighting style and different like character classes and all that good stuff. But even if it was like just kind of okay-ish, I'd be happy with it. I want a more combat, like action style oriented MMO. I don't want to do with all this like this stupid like build a bit. I don't know, what do you call this style? There's a name for it. Like all of this like ability recharge. Your character learns like a dozen fucking abilities, and you got to remember like the rotations for them. I've said it before. If you've ever watched like my videos on this, I'm a broken record at this point, but man, it fucking annoys the shit. I hate it. It does not appeal to me at all. At all. I am kind of curious though. What is this style called? WoW style combat system. World of Warcraft's combat system is a cornerstone of MMORPG genre, primarily using tab target mechanism. Okay, yeah, the targeting, that's not really keybinds to trigger abilities. What is it called though? Global cooldown, class rotations, resource map, position awareness, rolls, snapping, high skill ceiling. What do you call this though? What is WoW combat mechanics called? No, come on. Is it maybe it's called GCD, Global Cooldown Based Action System? GCD Combat System. Yeah, I guess that's what it's called. I don't like it at all. It is interesting here, though, GCD Combat System. I see that they cite Final Fantasy XIV. Final Fantasy XIV features a longer 2.2-second base GCD, emphasizing strict rotation, while often has a faster 1.5-second GCD, allowing for more reactive, priority-based gameplay. I played Final Fantasy XIV for a little bit. I liked it better. Even though it was that same kind of style, I did like it better, and I did get that feeling that when I played Final Fantasy 7 or 14, it was more like deliberative. It was a lot more like, I don't know, I just felt like that maybe it's just a slightly shorter, a longer time for like the cooldowns, but I felt like it made you much more thoughtful on what spells, what techniques you were going to cast, at what time, on what target. it was just a lot more like deliberative. I liked it a lot better for some reason. I mean, for that reason, not for that reason. Let's put this guy's. Let's put some of these videos on while I'm finishing up. My my key bindings, I guess. The science behind the gang wars of Wales. Shout out to this guy's channel, by the way, Casual Geographic. Awesome dude. I really like his shit. Okay, go subscribe to him. He's awesome. My school never taught you about the fossa. Okay, I never heard about the fossa. Let's learn about it.
They're gonna love my resume, but I gotta find the right word. Not synergy.
Investing, taxes, and a ferocious hidden anus. 3 things school ain't teach you enough about. And unfortunately, this isn't a finance channel. Of course, we're talking about the final boss of Facas, the maligned weasel, one could say measle, of Madagascar, the Fusa. And with that, there's 2 types of people. Those that have never perceived this rough draft cat, and those that never would have if Jada's will would have rocked Chris and left him with Fresh Prince before they did 2 movies. And that might be because putting the Fusa on a lesson plan would mean explaining to a room full of children that concealed poop shoot is their actual name. Cryptoprocta ferox is their scientific tag, where ferox means fierce or ferocious, and Cryptoprocta refers to the Fusa's anus being hidden from the public. Fusas use scent glands to mark their territory, and these glands are found in the anal pouch, and this anal pouch is like a modesty garment for their brown balloon knot. That modesty got rewarded with the scientists immortalizing the big bad of Madagascar by its forbidden Fruit Loop. At least they're not alone. They could always start a support group with a platypus. The name almost becomes purposefully provocative when you realize there is one whole, no pun intended, genus named Fusa. This Fusa genus has 1 living member, and it's not the Fusa, cause screw them, that's why. It's actually the, to be fair, closely related Malagasy civet. But the fact is, a dope-ass scientific name like Fusa fasana went to the civet, but the actual Fusa
sounds cool,
with missing butt muzzle. That's not the last or worst way they get screwed by their own anatomy. I think you know what's coming, but we'll get to that. Maybe the name refers to how much of a pain in the prostate figuring out what this beta-tested big cat actually was. The Fusa was first described in 1833, where they were put in the vivarid family. Not a vivid ferret, although I wouldn't blame you, but a family that has the pee smells like buttered popcorn binturong, along with civets and genets. In 1939, they were moved to a subfamily Infelidae, because folks were really sold on it being a cat. In 1945, a change of heart put incognito back with vivarids. Almost 50 years later, in 93, they got a little warmer, with a DNA study putting the Fusa at the mongoose lunch table. But it only took 2 years for someone to try to argue them back with the cats and family Felidae. An animal that hides its seat lips in a family of felines that flash it like ID should have told them the Fusa was the imposter. And eventually, something did, and they were put in the Eupluridae family in 2003. It took almost 200 years to ascertain what this unhinged roid weasel was. That still begs the question, what exactly is a Fusa? That question takes way too much time to answer, and it's probably why most schools don't even bother. So obviously I'm going to try to do it in a minute with no teaching degree. So, with Order Carnivora, there's basically 2 teams, Team Cat and Team Dog. Team Dog, Caniformia, is basically all the...
It's an interesting thing. I mean, when you look at cats and dogs, they kind of seem kind of similar, right? Like in terms of their body morphology and everything. And they are. They're not that far, relatively speaking, on the mammalian family tree. Same thing, by the way, with bears. Bears kind of look like big ass fucking dogs, right? And they're not super duper far off. I forgot that there's like a larger, I think it's called a clade. Like a larger clade that has canines, bears, and like mustelids, so things like badgers and wolverines. If you look at those animals, they all kind of look kind of similar. And then I believe for canines and felines, felidae, whatever the hell it's called, I think like foxes are kind of in between the 2 of them, and they kind of look like they're in between the 2 of them, right? Dogs' relation to bears. Big dogs. Distant related, they're both part of the carnivore suborders. The carnivore suborders can also contain cats as well, right? Carniformia. They belong to the dog-like branch rather than the cat-like branch. Common ancestral lineage goes back to the ancient Miacids around 40 to 60 million years ago. Okay, cool. Carniformia. Oh, where the hell are you taking? Oh, NSW, NSFW places. Yeah. Or maybe we did. But yeah, so you can see here, right? So you have Carnivora, you have Carniformia, and then Feliformia. So Carniformia, have your dogs, Canidae, canines. Arctoidea, Ursida, which is going to include bears, and then things like your horses, and then mustelida. You have like raccoons, then you have weasels, and then on the other end we got felines, and we got hyenidae, the hyenas, we have mongooses, and then your cats on this side, your actual, I don't know, interesting.
Animals you think are dogs, and you got your pinnipeds, the raccoon family, your bears, and the weasel family, aka the animals that think they're bears. Team cat feliform are, well, cats, hyenas, and the mongooses. The fossa is on the feliform side, and their family Eupluridae is full of animals you've never seen before. If you can name this, you're either lying or you're better than me. The fossa family shares a common ancestor with the mongoose mafia Herpestidae, and both of them are distant cousins with the hyena family. So even though I'm pretty sure I called it a weasel twice, they're actually on opposite sides. In fact, when you think about it, mongooses are the weasels of cats, and weasels are the mongooses of dogs. Eupluridae has other Madagascar predators you've never heard of because King Julian didn't scream their name loud enough. They include 6 types of Bonceras, like this ring-tailed right here, and also mongoose members like the brown-tailed and the broad-striped. But like I said, the closest living relative of the fossa is the Malagasy civet that snatched its chain and took his name, but best believe the fossa gets the last word. So what is the fossa? The fossa is an overgrown steroid mongoose civet understudy built like a time-strung cougar with the same cursed anatomy of a hyena. Nothing about animal casserole is straightforward. Even their name had to be an argument. Anyone who had a childhood like mine would pronounce it the same way I've been doing. But if you follow the Attenborough rule, Sir David would have had you saying fossa. What if I told you both are technically wrong? Cause their name comes from the original Malagasy word, and apparently the correct way to say it is foosh.
Oh, that explains it. Okay, because when you read it, it looks like fossa, but it comes from Malagasy? Malagasy. I'm pronouncing this right. Malavase? No. Let's see. USA. Name origin. Malagasy. I'm guessing that this is some tribe or something. Indigenous people of Madagascar. Interesting. I wonder if Madagascar itself is like a incorrect pronunciation of Malagasy. Madagascar. Name origin. Likely originated from Marco Polo's 13th century, where he mistakenly applied the name of Somalia's port city Mogadishu to the island due to confusion over trade routes. Oh shit, really fucked up. The local Malagasy people call their island Madagascar, an adaptation of the European name. Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, Christopher Columbus fucked up a lot of, geographic understandings for Western culture for quite a long time, right?
Like foosh, with a performance anxiety at the end. Experts feel free to correct me, but apparently that is the closest to the OG Malagasy pronunciation. It's just that the global game of telephone has Americans saying Fusa, while England pronounces it as fossa. So if your point of reference is the movie, it's the fossa! If it's Sir Attenborough or the Wild Thornberrys, it's fossa. And if you want to feel better than everyone, it's foosh. Now, another reason the Foosh is blacklisted from the curriculum is not just because depending on where you are, they can be thousands of miles and oceans away, but the entirety of your Pluridae is endangered, and if they're not, they're endangered of being endangered. What does that mean to you? Well, it could mean a lot.
So I have all these healing abilities, and I need to get back to like
where
figuring out the right rotation for these,
the
but
antibodies in llamas in hopes of
kind of see
curing
which
the big
ones take
cough
up,
cough of
use the
2020.
most force,
Many
which ones
believe
have the
this
longest
moss carpus
cooldown.
fur may contain the key against malaria. But beyond that, losing life over there could hit your pockets here. Deforestation is the biggest reason for the flatlining of Foosh and friends, and according to this,
These are nice graphics that he puts. How often does he put out videos? Because these are pretty well produced. You know? I know that he's not the one getting all this footage, right? But you still got to collect it, put it together. I imagine that you probably have to maybe. I don't know how you actually get the rights for these. I don't even want to question that. I don't want to put them on blast or anything. So 1 day ago, a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months. So almost. So maybe like anywhere between 1 to 3 videos a month. I can understand that. These look like they take a lot of time to put together. That makes sense to me. I did realize interesting thing if you're trying to get started streaming or in it or whatever. I learned that for discoverability, videos generally do better than streaming content does. And that there's certain times of the day I think that streaming actually has better discoverability. But generally speaking, discoverability for videos, actual videos rather than live streams, tend to do better, the YouTube algorithm. Streaming discoverability on YouTube. So streaming discovery is heavily driven by leveraging the platform search engine, SEO optimized title thumbnails, and great live content. With shorts and VODs, new features like simultaneously heard and AI-powered highlights are designed to boost visibility. Do I need to enable this or something? AI-powered highlights, that might be. Keep live VODs public as they build a searchable library. Upcoming AI features will automatically convert top streams moments to. Oh, maybe this AI-powered thing hasn't been released yet. YouTube. Oh no, it is. What the fuck? Why haven't I been using this? I need to read into this. Okay. Dual streaming, live reactions, playables, engage early and often, build a niche. Time. Optimal YouTube streaming discover generally occurs between 2 to 4 p.m. and 7 to 9 p.m. in your audience's local time zone. See, I think, well, maybe this isn't true, right? So, however YouTube's algorithm is designed doesn't necessarily perfectly capture how viewers actually engage with stuff. But my belief is that, and maybe this requires me having like a larger audience to begin with, like people to already kind of know who I am. But me personally, and I think a lot of people do this, we put on streams while in podcasts while we're doing other shit in the background. That's basically what I want my streams to kind of function as I gain more prominence. Is I want it to be something that people play while they're like working or at work. Now, I can't currently do that right now because I actually work a real job. But if I was doing this full time, then I would be trying to stream during other people's work hours. However, having like VODs, video on demand, allows other people to like watch my pre-recorded streams while they're at work. But my understanding is that posting videos has a better YouTube videos versus streams discoverability. YouTube videos offer superior long-term evergreen discoverability through search and recommendations, while live streams excel at immediate high-impact visibility for active audiences. Videos build lasting value, whereas streams rely on real-time engagement and notification triggers. So I need to do more actual posting of videos, and I think maybe the way to do that, a nice like hybrid, is take some of the streams that I do. It should be pretty easy, I think, for me to take the streams and maybe trim them down a bit and then release them as videos. So, and I wouldn't do that for every stream that I do. I would probably primarily do that for videos where maybe I'm reacting to like a political debate or something along those lines. My goal. I need to look into this AI short or highlight thing. Not know about that.
This article, the same arborcidal activities can cause extreme weather that can lead to the jacking up of food prices. So yeah, something happening a world away can come back to bite you in the wallet, and you might not even realize it until you're forced to finance a carton of eggs.
What is this, a
That's honestly
commercial?
why I feel pretty good about working with Ground News, because being informed has never been more important. Ground News
All
is
right.
debugging it like a Fusa Fruit Loop. Ground News shows you it's basically a more productive version of doom scrolling at 10,000s of 92% cocoa. Spell.com/cat. Loki don't even spell it right. The original Malagasy name is Fuchsia, with one S. Apparently colonizers saw that and were having none of it. Also, we don't know exactly where the name comes from, but the theory is in languages like Tagalog, Pusha means cat, and in
Tagalog.
Iban, Bosa might also refer to the Malayan weasel. So I can only guess that something happened where they were like, well, this thing looks like a cat, but could also
this
pass for a
one,
weasel, and we call both
72
Pusha.
force.
So the logical
Wait,
name
what?
is Fuchsia, because being a Fusa.
Okay, hold on, I need to understand this. This one heals for less health than this one does. But this one uses less force. Why? The range is the same. Activation for this one's like 2 seconds. This one is... This has a shorter activation. I guess maybe that's why is the difference. Like if you get a full 849 health versus 1033, it's not super far off, but the activation is a little bit shorter. So I think that's probably why it takes more force, because they don't want you to just spam this one as much. That'd be my guess. And then we got their force surrounds the target in a force field that absorbs. Do this too, actually, while I'm at it. Need to make the opacity a bit higher. $99. That doesn't seem to be changing. I think I might have it over screen. Screen? It is screen. That's why. Betas, do I want to put it on? Transition. Scale filtering. Disable. Set color. Okay, that's good enough.
It means being defined by how close you are to being
Oh, anyways. But the question for me then is, do I put this one on F? This would be like primary finger. Because I don't know if I want to go to this one all the time and then use up my force in doing so. Like get too used to spamming this one. At the same time, I like kind of having as the way that I just kind of look at where my keys are laid out, that like the base ability is in this primary row, and then kind of like the modified versions of these abilities are up and down. So for example, right, I got this rock throwing ability. That's like one of the first abilities you unlock. And then I figure like the kind of modified version is this ability, which throws a bunch of smaller rocks, but it's supposed to slow down the target. And it hits in like a cone, so I think it can hit more than one target. Let me see. Deals the target and consumes for duration, also slows the movement. Okay, so it's only one target, but it's up, right? And the idea there is like, as a move, it's almost like Smash Bros. How things are like directionally dependent. Like, it's a modified version of this basic ability, but it's the basic ability, but like forward on the keyboard, so it's like projecting it outward. But it's the same thing with this ability, which this ability sends a blast of like force wave energy at one opponent. But then this version is like a force wave that expands out. So it's like it's pushing outward kind of. So like both of these are kind of following the same logic. And then this one does like a force crush. And so my thought is like it's down, like my finger would be moving down on the keyboard, but it's like a force crush, and it's like the force, the same ability, but it's like pushing down. So that's like the subconscious logic there. That's like when I arrange it, I'm thinking about that because I want these things to be intuitive for me. So then this one's the more powerful version. Maybe put it underneath. And then force stun. Stuns the target for 4 seconds. Okay, so I have my offense abilities on this side, and I have my healing abilities on this side. The idea here. And with most characters, because most of my characters are offensive primarily, all of their offensive abilities would be like in this area here. And then like their healing abilities might be off to the side because I'm going to use them less often. Then like the status affecting ones that are positive are on this side, or negative maybe on this side. This character is supposed to be a healer, so I want more of the middle rows, columns, whatever you want to call them, to contain more healing abilities. But I do kind of have it split in half still. At least for now. I might change that as I get more abilities. I might make this whole middle area healing abilities and then have everything else outside of that. But like the protective armor. So force stun, where are we putting force? This is offensive. The cooldown's long on this one. I think a lot of characters have ability like this that usually longer cooldown. So I typically put it off to the side, meaning my finger has to like reach over one and then up, basically, which is like a weird motion, right? So I'm not going to be using it all the time. I'm not going to accidentally trigger it, and I have to be a little bit more thoughtful when I do use it. That's the idea there. So that's the stun ability. I kept the saber one here. It's almost useless, but the point that having it there is that if I run out of force, I can't use a lot of my abilities. I want to be able to still do something, and I'll use the saber strike. The saber strike will be able to actually do damage while I'm waiting for my bars to kind of grow back up. It's probably useful to have. I don't know if I need to have it in the K position, because I'm not going to be using it that often. I might move it all the fucking the way over here. Actually, I might just do that right now, so I don't forget. Because I know I have more offensive abilities that do damage using the force that I'm probably going to want to over here. Okay, do I have everything here? So, benevolence, force of will. Demonstrate your force of will, purging all incapacitating movements and impairing effects. So we probably want to put this... Can I use this on myself, or is it on me or an ally? Force purging all... I think this is only for me, maybe? And almost on all my characters, I kind of have it in this position. So I'm going to leave it there because it's going to be intuitive for me. Stun, we put in there. Deliverance, we put in there already. Reduces the force consumed by force armor by 25. Okay. Reduces the activation of deliverance by 0.5 seconds and the force consumed by benevolence by 5. So this drops down to 60 something. Okay. Grants 2 charges of force potency, which increases the force critical chance of your direct attacks and heals by 60%. Each time a direct force ability critically hits, or each time a channeled force ability is activated, 1 charge is consumed in the last 20 seconds. Excuse me. So we'll put this here. I'm probably not going to use it as often. The cooldown's pretty long on this one. So if I do use it... And actually I might put in the top row. I usually preserve the top row for like buffs and debuffs that take a long time to cool down, because I figure like it's not intuitive for me to have my fingers up here, but if I'm going to be using one of these abilities that have a long cooldown, I'll just kind of click on them, you know? So I might actually do. The same thing. Okay. Mind Snap interrupts the target's action and prevents the ability being used for 4 seconds. So for almost all my characters, I do stun and the interrupt kind of in the same area. Immediately heals a target for 2 to 300 plus an additional 516 over 9 seconds. This one consumes way less force than the other two, but the cooldown is 18 seconds, so it's going to take a long time for it to cool down. 1002, 1000. Yeah, that's going to take a while. So where do I put this one? I think maybe I put it here. It's like it's a permutation of the basic ability. It's within that same proximity. Oh, I just noticed I didn't actually put my horse armor. I think I want to have it there. Here. Rejuvenate. Immediately heals a target for... Oh, I just put... Okay. Mind crushes the target's mind with the force. Instantly. What I'm going to do here... Kind of thinking. No, I'll leave it like that. Mind crush. Crushes the target's mind with the force, instantly dealing 450-ish damage, additional 639 over 6 seconds. Cooldown is 14 seconds. 13 force. Maybe we put it right here. For speed, increase your movement speed by 50% for 2 seconds. Does not break stealth. That's nice. We will put it like that, maybe? Okay. Cloud Mind. Clouds the mind of your enemies, instantly lowering their threat by a moderate amount. Activating Cloud Mind grants Blackout, which increases damage reduction by 25% for 6 seconds. Instantly lowering your threat. Okay, that might be useful, especially if I use my other character as a tank. I think maybe we'll put it here. See, I'm almost tempted to put it over here in this area because these are the ones that help me like escape a battle and avoid fight, or like allow me to you know, break out of immobilizing effects. And this one kind of has a similar thing where it reduces my threat from the opponent, but also this is offensive against the opponent. All my offensive abilities are on this side because it reduces their damage reduction. What is the cooldown for this? 45. Oh, barely. Not going to be really using it a whole lot, so yeah, I think. Immediately restores 1,200-ish health to you. Cannot be used on others. Okay, so maybe we put this here, especially as a longer cooldown. It's a little bit of an awkward one. No, it's actually not that awkward to move from F to C. I don't know if I want to. I don't want to accidentally trigger it. This is almost like a last resort. Weakens the target's mind, dealing 825 internal damage over 18 seconds. No cooldown. And there's 32 force. So I feel like it actually should go around where force crush is. I'm gonna put this here, and this goes here. Then what does this one do again? This one lowers my threat and weakens their ability to defend against. Actually, you know what? I think I will put this here. I think that makes more sense. Actually, this goes here. Goes here, maybe. Maybe we do it like that. Though I don't know if I'll think... Yeah, because everything on this side is targeting me and my allies. Everything on this side is targeting the foes. Maybe it makes more sense to put it here. Where do I have it? Right here, maybe? Keep it right there. Right here, maybe. Everything on this side is for my own peoples. Increases your movement by 150% for 2 seconds. Does not break stealth. Grants 2 charges of force points. So the cooldown is really long on this. So I do agree that it should be in the top row. Question though is, where does this go? Demonstrates force for purging all incapacitating. Yeah, I'm hardly ever going to use this one. Let's do this right here. Other. Okay, yeah. Alright. Mind Snap, we have that one in there. Rejuvenate. And Active Speed, Cloud Mind. So this stuns them. No. This interrupts their attack. This stuns them. This lowers my threat to them and reduces their ability to. Or for now, maybe. Oh, okay. Weaken mind. Do we have this one? Weakens the target's mind, dealing 825 internal damage over 18 seconds. Oh, this is the one that I was thinking about. Where I'm gonna put this one in. Actually, maybe this will stun them completely, right? Maybe we do this. But immediately. Wait, why the fuck is this here? It's the same ability? What the hell? I have this in the wrong place. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Something's not right here. Done. Deliverance. Potency. Mend. Mind Snap. I have that there. Rejuvenate. Mind Crush. I have there. Oh, maybe this is here because I meant to put this one there and I fucked up. Okay, so let's do that. Put these guys back where they were at. And then we have Healing Trance. Heals the friendly target for 1700. Cooldown's a little bit longer. Level granted. Channel me. Consumes 60 force over the channel duration. In addition, Healing Trance channels and ticks faster. Channels and ticks. That means. But. Oh wait, what the fuck is this? How'd those get mixed up? What the hell is going on? This one here then. Falls upon the light energy surrounding you, restoring 40 force. Utilizing makes wary, reducing your force regeneration by 2 seconds. I can stack 4 times. Okay, so what I understand from this then is this will immediately give me extra force. I can use it 4 times. It'll give me like a quick rejuvenation of force, but then it slows down my ability to naturally regenerate force. What's going on here? So I think we'll put it here. Let's see. We got D. We got F. We got D. We have S. Cooldown. Any cooldown? No. That's the right way to do it. General, we got Heroic Moment. Put that there, maybe. We have... Sprint is always active. Quick travel and the emergency fleet pass. We want to have somewhere on this grid. Stuff off right here. That's fine. But the quick travel, fleet pass. These aren't really super necessary. Don't need pets on them. See, Unity unifies you and your companion through the force, reducing damage you both take by 50%. Maybe we'll use this. We'll put this one here too. Sacrifice your companion to the brink of death to instantly heal yourself. Oh shit. Okay, let's put that one there. I have a punching ability that's fucking dope. Must be like a legacy. Oh, it is a legacy. Can you dance? This one's super important. We gotta have this one here. See that? Super important. And then we need to have our mount. Oh, that's fucking dope. I didn't know that he sits on the back of the turret. That's fucking cool. Yeah, let's use that one for a little bit. That one's fucking cool. Alright. We're ready to go. Finally. Get hit, motherfucker. Okay. Something I must have enabled in the comments, in the settings. I used to be able to hover over these and see what the effects were. I think I might have changed that. Okay, so key bindings are good. I gotta remember to save this key binding. Saves the current. Already, would you like to already? Yes. Okay. User interface. Show face in here. Show tutorial alerts. Skip movies. Show detailed item tooltips. Like this on will display more detailed information about the modification installed in an item. Enable comparative tooltips. Show invites to social message. Operative frames. Setting. Mission reward window, cartel market, character codes. Chat thing, it's not a chat thing. Combat log, fly tech. Roles. Always show class symbol, always show health bar, show guild. Heraldry. Base gate help tips. Ignore group mid. Graphic. Circles. Colorblind, no. Problem. No map notes. Lines. Mission. Selecting. Operative frames. Show style. Press group. That. Cool. No? Yeah, I don't know where it's at. Maybe it's in interface editor. Snap to UI grid. Oh, I need to. Hide secondary UI elements. Okay, I don't know where the fuck. Over it. It's okay. It's gonna be okay.
Else, which is actually their origin. Fusara Cat's nature tried redrawing strictly from memory, and I'm not even kidding. You ever wonder how they got there in the first place? The aggressive absentness is believed to have spawned from a common ancestor about 20 million years ago, except Madagascar physically divorced from the subcontinent of India 80 million some years ago. How did the Fush get loose on Madagascar? There's a couple theories, and the predominant one is that their ancestors rafted on floating vegetation about 250 miles across the Mozambique Channel, a trip that would have lasted a little over a month. Really, the Fusa just proves how much nature cooked with cats. You basically had an oversized meerkat spawn on an island with no big cat apex predator. So they messed around and became one. The endgame of evolving the perfect merc machine with milk is apparently cat. Fusas aren't that, but these Fusas' apex is This was a reasonable crash out. They might look cute to us, but this is the reaper to the Madagascar population. Nature didn't stop at retractable claws. They have ankles that can almost turn backwards, meaning they can move through the trees like a homicidal squirrel. It's not enough that they'll run
They show that? I'm kind of curious what
the
that looks like.
Madagascar population. Nature didn't stop at retractable claws. They have ankles that can almost turn backwards, meaning they can move through the
I want to see this. Hold on. Fusa ankles. I swear, I'm only looking at it for research purposes, okay? I don't see that. I mean, I take his word for it, but I want to see like an image of this. Ankles rotation, maybe? Backwards. Yeah, this might be too specific for me to find. I'm going to take his word for it, but that's kind of cool. It's kind of interesting.
the trees like a homicidal squirrel. It's not enough that they'll run you down on land or tree, but they'll often tag team prey, with one Foos chasing prey through the trees, weaponizing predatory parkour to force them on the ground, where Fusa number 2 hawks them down. The entire jungle is food to a Fusa, even their closest cousin. There was an actual problem where researchers were trying to study the Malagasy civet, but Fusas kept following trap lines and eating the captured animals. Fusa move on their own time, literally. They're cathemral, meaning they're active whenever they feel like. There's no combination of numbers on a clock when a Fusa can't strike, which is why their main personality trait is inflicting primal panic in lemurs. Not only is half their diet lemur meat, they'll straight up rip sleeping lemurs out of napping spots. They tell stories about the Fusa. This is their Freddy Cougar. That is one bad motherfucker. She-Faka. That is a She-Faka, and they're named after the sound they make in the face of a Fusa. Oh shit. Because Fusa will eviscerate them, with scientists finding Fakas life deprived with their intestines ripped out. Fusa will flatline anything lemur, even the ones weighing nearly as much as they do. You think they give a Faka? No, they take them straight off the senses. She-Faka, he-Faka, you-Faka. In a Fusa's eyes, anyone can get it. Millions of years being marooned on an island does things to you, and one of the consequences is Fusas do something no other mammal does. The following is strictly for educational purposes. That being said, it might just be time to put the kids to bed. Fusas can't change from girls to guys, but boy do they do everything to convince you otherwise. Fusa go through transient masculinization, where they develop the same pseudo situation hyenas got.
What?
Except with them, it involves a young female Fusa flitterus growing large enough and spiky enough to
Clitoris? What the hell's a clitoris? This is like a feline clitoris or what?
make them anatomically identical
Hold
to
on. Again, for research purposes, clitoris. Oh, maybe he's just being cute with his wording here. I thought this is like an actual anatomical thing. Fusa. Maybe? Okay, I don't know. I think it's just funny.
male. They'll even release the same musky orange product males do. The difference is, where hyenas have to pass kids like a kidney stone, eventually the Fusa's baby-making business end goes back to normal. But for a time, you really can't tell male from female, and that might just be the point.
Let me do this too, because it's kind of hard to see. This off. There we go.
There's some things about this freak-off ferret that makes being young, female, and Fusa the worst combination. Female Fusas are highly territorial, because they'll make love in the same tree year after year, call it the tree of life. And Fusa foreplay involves the female sitting high up in the tree, with starving males down below competing for her time. Now the thing with Fusas is, the female will spend nearly a week in the tree, where she'll be visited by several males. 4, 5, sometimes 6, 7. Some yellow lights don't get ran through that much, and there is no honor system. Males will often climb up the tree to shoot their shot, while the female's already physically occupied by another. So yeah, it's a Fusa freak-off free-for-all. Imagine the ones from the movie, but instead of feeding for food, they desperately fall over each other trying to make a baby mother. Which might explain the gender bending. Young females can get put on a shirt by an older vindictive female, and put in a hearse by a horde of hormonal males. This can really be a problem, since apparently males can't tell when a female is ovulating, so they just keep trying. Which could kill an inexperienced female, cause, well, they're not the only ones with some nonsense in the nethers. Fusas hold a world record, and that's having the largest penis relative to body size of any mammal. They somehow beat out the table, and I've seen one use his as—
Hold on, again, for some research purposes here. Fusa. Fusa penis. I don't know if this puts me on an FBI list or what. I doubt the FBI actually cares, but I am curious. They have a long fucking tail, holy shit. I guess when you're climbing around in trees, it probably makes a lot of sense, but I mean, this is their penis, I suppose. It's like 6 inches. This is like a human-sized penis. I mean, it's not as girthy, but this is like similar length, but it's on a thing that's probably way smaller than a human being. Like from the videos I were watching, this doesn't seem big because this is like on a road, right? So it's almost like maybe 1.5 tire widths long. Not that long, so.
As a tripod and a back scratcher, but I guess a 30-inch animal dragging a nearly 8-inch nectar dispenser is notable.
8-inch, wow.
The sheer coital
They got that
is
rap
wide
rap
versus
star
a hunk of
penis.
adolescent donkey.
Every
They
rapper
also
has
have
a massive
vacuum
penis
cleaner,
according to
known
them.
to allow the male to stay in the game as long as possible, even when the coach, other players, and even ref want him out. And not only that, they also have backward-facing spines on their procreation pickle, which makes retraction not impossible, but incredibly uncomfortable to watch. Can't even
So
imagine.
like, cats have that as well. I wonder if that's just a common thing on the feline family tree. Because I think the Foos is related. It's in the class Felidae or whatever. Let's see here. Cryptoprocta. That's interesting. Carnivora. Okay, so they're not really on the feline family. Endemic to Madagascar. Oh, interesting. These guys are so diverged from the rest of the mammalian population. It's kind of like what animal is it? Or maybe it's just all the animals that are on Galapagos Island, where they're like so far removed from other animals because of being stranded on the island. Endemic to Madagascar, comprising 10 known living species. We have a family that only has 10 living species. They're all native to Madagascar. But I'm guessing. I want to see is where are they at in relation to the feline? Oh, here we go. Okay, so they are in Feliformia. Other feliforms: Vivariidae, Hyenidae, Vestidae, and Eupleridae. Malagasy carnivore. Do all members of Feliformia have barbed dicks, have barbed penises? Research purposes. Not all members of the suborder Feliformia have barbed penis, while barbed penises are well-known features of many felids. So it is like a lot of them. It's not universal. Suborder includes other female families. This might sound super fucking weird. I'm just a weirdo for like zoology, animal biology kind of stuff. But I'm super curious on how this even evolved, right? At one point in time, I had like a herpetology book, so I was reading about like the evolution of lizards and amphibians and whatnot. And it's just really interesting to see how different things evolved over time, like what the theories are and how different things evolved. All right, so we got someone in chat. Yeah, I saw him. Oh, this person lives close to Madagascar, called Reunion Island. If you want to know. So curious. Obiru, is Reunion Island? Is that like the translation of Madagascar, or what do you mean by that? Also in SWTOR, what I'm doing right now is I need to get to Quesh with this character. That's the next planet in her storyline, and I wasn't evolved, or not evolved. I wasn't leveled up enough, so I'm kind of just grinding. I went to this area over here because I don't think I've explored it on the map yet. Oh, motherfucker! I thought I was headed over in this direction, so I figured I would go over here and see if there's any missions I could do over here. I need to level up to level 36. I'm at level 35, so I don't have too much farther to go. Okay. So, oh, you live on Reunion Island. It's about 600 kilometers. Scar. Kilometers to miles. What is it, like 2/3 or something? That's not too far off. It's kind of what my mind usually goes to when I think of like kilometer to mile conversion. So like 2/3 of 600 would be like around 400, right? That wasn't too far off. What would be the ratio? Is that more like 2/5? 3/5? 372. Call it 3.62. Not too far from 2/3, which would be 0.667. 0.6. So it's somewhere between 3/5 and this is a nerdy stream.
Imagine how that feels. Or maybe I just don't want to. We probably wouldn't even know all this if they weren't so damn loud about it. It's also hard to miss that females can put in 14-hour shifts in one day with multiple males, or sometimes just one. Not only will a Fusa couple go at it for hours, they can spend an extra one stuck in the same physical tie dogs get caught in. Of course, this means nothing to the competition, with researchers witnessing females having to chase off males while still attached cat dog style to their last body. And sometimes multiple rivals climb the tree to fight the male while he's still baculum deep. It's straight player hating, and why Fusas do it at the very tops of the trees, like a tryst on trapeze. Some males will even play defense by guarding the female hours after they mate, especially if that male got interrupted. The couple can even injure themselves, and there's a non-zero chance the male falls and breaks his baculum. It's an entirely unpleasant process from start to finish, and if I have to know that, you do too, and if you unclick for that, I wouldn't blame you. What really makes you look at these guys different, and when your own conception is that demon-esque, unfortunately it's no surprise when they get treated like one. In Malagasy culture, there's something called Fadi. My understanding is Fadi are spiritual beliefs Malagasy people live by, basically cultural taboos ingrained into their society. For example, eating with a hat on, considered Fadi, and the punishment is baldness. Eating while standing is Fadi, and the penalty could be famine. There's hundreds of examples of Fadi, and one of them actually protects the Fush.
Kind of curious too. Let me see something real fast. I want to know this Reunion Island. I actually don't even really know where Madagascar is. I think it's off the coast of Africa somewhere, right? Yeah. Okay. So you're over here. This looks like a pretty ass area. Holy shit! Wow, I'm living in paradise, huh? Have you been to this whatever the hell this place is? This looks cool as shit. I imagine people probably come here and swim. I'll be so lucky.
It's said that Fusas will feed on the long-expired bodies of ancestors buried in the forest, making it Fadi to eat Fusa meat. But Fusa have some other freaky folklore about them, like one that says they crawl out the forest at night to steal babies straight out the cradle. Another legend tells of Fushas licking a sleeping person to put them in an unbreakable trance so they can disembowel them. Another says the Fusa's smell is enough to drop chickens dead on the spot, literally instant death through mustiness. So yeah, lemurs aren't the only things with thumbs that don't think much of the afterpick of an anti-drug PSA for predators. But of course, the Madagascar murder mongoose is almost zero threat to humans. To a lemur, that's a death threat, but to humans, they're just overly ambitious raccoons. Compare that to the absolute number done on the crypt.
Also very cold though. Okay. Are you like native from that area? Like, were you born there, or did you move there? Very paradisiac. But once you live there for 5 years, it's boring. I gotta hold on. Let me try to figure out how to say the word. Paradise, paradisitic, right? Paradisitic, I think is how you'd say it. Almost sounds like parasitic. Like the total opposite connotation. Alright, let's see how this goes. this shit. Oh yeah. Tapped into the dark side there for a minute. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I was born there. I moved to Romania in my early 20s and moved back here a few years ago, but I want to go to mainland France to pursue my degree pretty much. Wow, pretty international, huh? Let me do one of these EXP things. Sell off some of this shit that I don't need. Oh, that's why. Okay, I forgot. When I use this heroic moment thing, it allows me to use abilities I've locked in my legacy. So this is because this probably comes from my Sith Inquisitor. And what is this one? Remember? But also, I was trying to figure out. There used to be a way, or it used to show on here when I'd hover over these things. Descriptions. Let me see how to reactivate that, because I must have turned that setting off. SWTOR. Hover over ability description. Hovering over an ability displays a tooltip in the UI editor detailing its effect cost. Tooltips to sure press Control U twice to reload. It hasn't been moved up. Okay, let me see here. This one in? Probably this one, yes. Need to turn this on. There we go. Can't even see them anymore. Okay, I might be or keybind to press maybe. Okay, thanks. Figured it out, but thank you.
Thick chocolate Cheerio by man, and it's no matchup. If they're not actively getting screwed over by property development, Fusa get flatlined in retaliation for preying on poultry. Not to mention, many will defy Fatty, as in up to half of all Malagasy communities, Fusa flesh is regularly eaten. Honestly, Madagascar as a whole is in danger, with over 90% of her forests already gone. And keep in mind, many like the Fusa are only found on the Big Red Island, so once they're gone from there, they're gone for good. Better appreciate it while it's still here, and who knows, maybe I'll take a trip down there. No promises though, I've already made too many. But as for later, for now, drink water, hug your mother, spread the Fusa word. If school won't, we will. Touch grass, call your father, and I'ma see y'all in the next one.
Alright. Let's see what else we got here. I don't know, this one's kind of basic. 100 men versus a gorilla, but let's see what he has to say, I'm curious.
100 men versus 1 gorilla is just the newest online debate brought to you by people that have way too much time on their hands. And I'm no better, because here I am making a video about it. Because it's quickly gone from silly Twitter talk to what has to be a massive joke that I'm not in on. What's clear is one side is getting drastically overrated, while people obviously aren't taking the other side seriously. Plus, I love animals and arguments, so if you're looking for a video to eat your lunch with, or to be the soundtrack of your commute home, I'm going to break down the question you probably didn't care about in the first place. And by the end, you'll wonder how this was ever even a question. So here's the full truth of whether 100 unarmed men could beat one prime silverback gorilla. But first, we gotta understand what force of nature we're up against. Now, I do have a couple recent videos on gorillas, so to not repeat myself too much, I do advise that you check those out for further context. Basically, everything we thought about gorillas back in the day was wrong. They're giant, non-violent, fart-happy pacifists, and the most dangerous thing about them is they can misunderstand regular human actions as an act of war. So while, yeah, if you smile at a silverback enough times, he eventually will put the boots on you like a Cherokee drum, most times a gorilla is just worried about the six.
That is an interesting thing about us versus other primates, which is that the smiling facial expression, showing the teeth, baring the teeth, I think in most mammals and in primates is a sign of aggression. So like, for example, smiling friends, smiling ape, I don't know. Like, I've seen this picture posted before, as an example of this. But like, you might look at that and think, oh, he's cute, he's offering me a hand, he's got a big friendly smile on his face. No, this is an aggressive facial expression. That means like, get the fuck away from me. And I guess like all the rest of these would be aggressive facial expressions. Although there is like, I think laughter, like the laughter facial expression, laughter in apes. Right, apes included chimpanzees produce laughter. Well, the vocalizations are probably friendly, particularly when tickling or during play. So like laughter is probably going to bear the teeth, but there's a little bit of subtlety there, right? Which is probably that it's accompanied with the vocalization of laughter. There's probably like this open-mouthedness versus just kind of baring the teeth. Man, look at all this AI nowadays. That's kind of annoying. In the near future, I might even be able to tell. Yeah, this is aggressive, you know? So I'm kind of curious, like, why is it in humans that the smiling expression is friendly versus every other animal or every other ape? Why are humans unique when it comes to smiling? I don't know. Smiling being friendly. The gesture evolved from a primate threat display into a sign of submission, non-aggression, and social bonding. It's like the complete opposite. Unlike animal tooth baring, which indicates danger or fear, the human smile evolved to express affection. In primates showing teeth, particular I am is a sign of submission with the lips pulled back. Showing teeth, particularly lips pulled back and teeth together, is a sign of submission or fear, saying I am not a threat. Humans adapted this. Oh, okay. So I don't know, I guess baring the teeth, but there might be subtle differences, like baring the teeth, but with the lips pulled back? Okay. I don't really have time to dive into it, but interesting thing for another day, I guess.
6,000 calories he eats a day, and thank the stars for that. Gorillas are built like the developer had something to prove. They took the human model and said, drag to resize. The result is an alpha ape with a stronger bite force than a grizzly, allegedly, hands that can crush a crocodile's skull, allegedly, and just strength that we really have no way to truly comprehend. That man fully didn't plan to get casually ragdolled, but plans are always subject to change when you're around the prime ape. Gorillas might default to peace, but life is multiple choice. The question is, what kind of carnage comes when they choose violence? It's hard to imagine what a fully malice-motivated gorilla can do, because it takes a lot for them to get to that point. The first phase of conflict involves using body language and gestures to send a message before hands even have to be thrown. Because for an animal that can spend over 12 hours a day eating, wasting calories on fights is poor resource management. The second phase of escalation usually involves pushing, grappling, and screaming in really short bursts. Gorillas fight the way they fuck. What I mean is, the phase they run are like how they're hung. Not long at all. Because again, most times gorillas don't actually want to fight. But what about when they do? Yeah, that would be phase 3. That usually happens when 2 silverbacks throw down for control of a group. Losing such would mean losing the 3 Fs. Food, family, and the FCC won't let me finish. But stakes can make these fights to the death, and here's where we can see what gorillas are truly capable of. I found a research paper that detailed the injuries sustained in gorilla-on-gorilla fights, and based on that, you see a pattern. Those teeth are for more than just undressing trees, and losers are often found with lacerations and puncture wounds all over the body. And unlike a leopard, which leaves small puncture wounds, the canines of a gorilla cause large gaping tears in victims. Even if the gorilla's bite strength has been exaggerated, which we will get into, even lowballing them puts them at the level of a hyena. One gorilla named Inshuti had his foot completely crushed with the tips of his fingers and ear bitten off. Gorillas also use their arms, not really to punch, but to use as battering rams, and they've also been known to pull chunks of hair out with their hands. So safe to say, a gorilla's stiff arm to the back would crack your constitution like a glow stick, and could dislocate or break human bones by accident. And with many victims also recorded with bite wounds to the face, you'd probably be able to unlock your iPhone from 20 feet away after a gorilla puts jaws on you. So what chance would an army of humans have against a 500-pound berserker? Well, hot take, gorillas have been drastically overrated in many ways. First as fighters. Gorillas aren't efficient fighters, they're more physical brawlers and grapplers, and with everything I've said, most fights last anywhere from a couple seconds to 1 to 2 minutes at the most. Also, as strong as gorillas are, their strength has been overrated. There are some animals that just get more and more OP the more people talk about them. Chimps have been said to have the strength of 8.
Oh yeah, yeah. I haven't really had a chance to talk about it. I was saying that I was debating whether or not I want to separate like talking about politics from like my video game, movie kind of stuff that I intend to do. I don't mind talking about it right now. Just wanted to say that I hope you keep yourself safe, bro. Oh yeah, it's okay. I mean, I'm not in Minnesota. I think they plan on coming to California pretty soon. I don't know. I mean, at this point, if you live in the United States, you're kind of used to the craziness that's over here with all this. Wasn't always like this, but kind of get used to it over time, unfortunately. What's going on with my camera? Keep binding thing. Oh, that's why. I don't have zoom. There we go. Vroom vroom.
Men, when really it's closer to 1.5. It's just that they're stronger in all the ways that can kill you. And grizzly bears are already big enough, but then you got people claiming they can decapitate a full-grown moose with one swipe. Now what idiot would say that? And this debate has people swearing a gorilla would rip a whole man in half like a phone book with nary a sweat. I knew the gorilla propaganda peaked when this was an actual debate. Dr. Strange can conjure up 14 million realities. You won't find one where a plus-size protein-packing primate can do anything.
Oh yeah, no problem. No, I'm not worried about it. Nah, I don't feel derailed at all. I do talk about politics a lot. And it's kind of more of a recent thing that I've been thinking about, is trying to like separate the two. So I kind of imagine that probably the people who are going to wind up liking my channel for, I don't know, streaming video games or want to do like more movie shows, reactions, probably don't necessarily want to, you know, be bothered by politics. Want to kind of zone out, maybe have an escape from that kind of stuff. So that was kind of my thought process. I've been also debating, this has been in my head for a while now, whether I should actually just make a separate, like a second channel and kind of have them totally separated from each other. But I'm still not 100% sure about that. For the time being, I think my plan is to have this stuff just kind of as like separate streams. I don't mind touching on it every now and then, but it kind of has left me with a bit of a conundrum though, because a lot of times I was reacting to politics stuff while playing video games, which I think is like a pretty popular meta, I guess. And now I'm kind of at a crossroads where I'm like, okay, sometimes I feel like I need some background noise to kind of fill in the doldrum when I'm playing, especially between like cutscenes or when I'm just grinding and stuff like that. But I'm not sure what to react to now. I'm not super duper into like internet online drama, but I might wind up just doing that to fill the space. But I do like science and biology and zoology stuff, so I think maybe I might just go down that road of just finding a bunch of science, biology, engineering channels to kind of do as reactions while I'm, you know, playing, so I have something in the background. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, sorry, I don't really know like when you started following me or anything like that, but I take it that you've probably seen some of my other politics stuff. I don't know if you started following me for that reason or if you were following me for the video game stuff. Granted, I'm not like a master video game person, so I imagine most of the people who do follow me probably follow me for the politics stuff. The idea though is that I want to combine a little bit of like casual, parasocial entertainment with like social and political commentary, because I feel like that's a lot of what you get on the right-wing side, is that they combine those two and it's really effective. So I wanted to be kind of a counterbalance to that. My 2 cents about it is you should just keep it on one channel for now since you're still a small content creator. Yeah, I think so. I think that's one of the considerations I've had too, is that it's like hard enough already to kind of get your channel discovered and popular and everything. And obviously, like for the time being, it does kind of seem like it'd be a much higher uphill battle to try to grow 2 channels at one time when I'm not really popular in either sphere. So I do think I agree with you there. I think in that regard, I might wind up splitting them off once I've grown a little bit more, I guess. The big goal right now is to obviously get to the point where I'm at least monetized. I've been kind of surprised that lately, and maybe it's just because I've been streaming more consistently lately, been getting a decent amount of views over what I've had before. I need to try to work on trying to get people to subscribe. But one thing that I learned recently is that I think actually posting videos rather than just streams, I think videos have more long-term discoverability, so I think I need to do a little bit more of that. But to that end, I think one of the easy things I could do is just take the live streams that I do have and kind of trim out the parts where maybe I'm reacting to like the debate or something, and I can re-release that as an actual video. But I think I am kind of trying to plan to do more actual, like, just video reactions where... Well, you know what? Actually, now that I think about it, when I think about a lot of the most popular, like, political commentator streamers, they'll stream and then they'll re-upload sections of the stream as a video. I think that's probably the most efficient way to go. Do you you play this game by chance, or what games do you usually play? Yeah, I've been uploading a few more shorts lately. The hard part is, like, I actually work like a full-time job, and to be honest with you, I have a lot of hobbies and passions outside of this. So the hard part is me just finding the time to do all this stuff, and the motivation, because even if I have the time, it's like I might be like worn the fuck out, and then it's like, you know, I don't want to do editing. Editing is like the most boring, tedious part of all of it. Appreciate you commenting too, though, by the way. Getting some more audience engagement is something that I want to do. I've had a handful of streams where people actually showed up. You know, I had like a few concurrent viewers that are actually commenting and whatnot. So I'm sure as I grow, that'll be kind of like a natural consequence. And then once I do get to that point, the nice thing is I notice a lot of streamers who are popular, they have like their community will send them videos to react to. So that'll probably be like the play is that once I have like a good community, I have like a few people are actually consistently tuning into the streams, then I might have some people that'll be like, hey, can you comment on this? Can you react to this? I guess I had another thought there. I forgot, I lost my thought on that. MOBAs, not much lately though. Yeah, you know, honestly, this MMO kind of sucks. I'm not a big fan of the MMO playstyle and everything, but I was really into Knights of the Old Republic way back in the day. Obviously, that's considered like a classic game. And so when this game came out, I was there when this game first came out in like 2013. And I was like, oh cool, like this is like a modern continuation of Knights of the Old Republic. Obviously, quite different play style and everything, but I'm already kind of big into Star Wars, the lore and everything like that, and I had started playing this, and then I had a friend of mine who I used to play a lot with as well. And so it's like I already kind of have a lot of time sunk into this, and I kind of want to play through the classes, do the storylines on them. But there are definitely like more interesting games that I could be playing, and I will be in the future. Hey man, I appreciate you saying that. To be honest with you, I mean, I've been commenting on politics for a very, very long time. I mean, if you watch some of my stuff, you probably know about this. I used to be on 4chan. I used to be in the trenches of 4chan debating like everybody. I'm very used to it. I'm very used to the different arguments. I'm pretty honed in on my rhetoric and whatnot. So I've been trying to kind of influence things from like behind the scenes for a long time now. But it's been in the form of like being an anonymous commentator, shit talking, shit posting on like Reddit, 4chan, Quora for a while, even YouTube comments for a time. And once Trump 2.0 got reelected, I was like, you know, I've been doing this half-assedly for a long time. It honestly already takes up a lot of my life, but I'm just not known at all. And I'm like, you know, I think I'm good at it. I obviously can't pull myself away from it. I just feel like a compulsion to try to influence the discourse. So I was like, you know what? Let's just stop half-assing it and actually try to get fully engrossed in it. So hopefully, if I do get a bigger audience, maybe I can just kind of dedicate myself to this as a job kind of thing. But you know, we're a ways away from that. Wait. I think the next game that I want to do though is Kingdom Hearts. I think I mentioned that before. I mean, there's just too many games, too many movies, too much shit to do. One of my priorities for this weekend is to set up a schedule, like an agenda for myself, because I obviously have too many things I want to do, not enough time, and I figured like sometimes when I feel like I'm not being very productive, I try to go back to the drawing board and kind of refine my agenda, or sometimes just kind of put out my agenda and my goals and kind of refocus on like putting into perspective of, okay, here's all the things that I want to do, here's my time slots, and then I'm able to kind of more effectively use my time to do that. Okay, let's see. And to answer your question, the point, I did start watching your content since the Jubilee video. I mean, yeah, dude, a lot of people, the Mehdi Hassan one did really well. I don't know why. Well, you know what? Now that I think about it, the Mehdi Hassan video kind of blew up on its own, and then I put out the reaction to that right away. I think that helped out a lot. And I've been thinking about that. I probably need to do that more often. Like the Anna Kasparian debate, I had a lot of views on that one as well. And I know that I put out the reaction to that pretty, like I didn't wait too long. So I know I need to kind of do that more often, is be timely with it. Get out ahead of everybody else, I guess. Yeah, so that's probably what I'm gonna do. It's a lot of time to, yeah, it is. I love Kingdom Hearts. I still need to play the third one. Which one do you want to play? So I want to play all three. I have all three purchased on the PlayStation Store. I have an Elgato so I can stream for the PlayStation. As I've been doing more streaming and I bought a graphics card and I've been playing Helldivers, I'm getting much more used to playing for gaming on the PC, and I almost want to move everything in that direction now. But since I already have it downloaded on the PlayStation, I paid for it already, I'm going to play it on that. So I just want to play through the first three. I'm probably not going to play any of the side games. I don't imagine. I just don't think I have the time for it. I mean, I don't know too much about Kingdom Hearts. So I think I heard that maybe they're going to come out with like a fourth one or something. I have a buddy who's really into Kingdom Hearts series. But I always had in my mind, I always thought, just from like an outsider's perspective, that the first three are considered like the quintessential Kingdom Hearts experience. But I don't know. I mean, you sound like you have played it a bit, so I mean, you could tell me if that's right or wrong. Okay. I mean, well, I guess you said you haven't played the third one. I wonder, is the fourth one, is it like, is it considered like part of the main story, or is it almost like an epilogue, almost like a, how would I put it, like a almost like an unnecessary almost like Star Wars, I guess, where you have like the prequel trilogy, the original trilogy, the sequel trilogy, and it's almost like you can watch the original trilogy. You don't really necessarily have to watch the prequel trilogy, because the OT, the original trilogy, is almost like its own self-contained thing. It's canon to the story. Okay, yeah. So I'm sure it's canon to the story, but is it almost like the start of another trilogy? I guess is what I'm kind of trying to get at there. Okay, so I found the base for my people, and is the outpost I was at earlier? I was kind of hoping that there might be some dudes over here that can give me another mission, but I guess not. But yeah, so I got Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts is like top of mind right now. That and then Final Fantasy VII Remake. I played the first remake. Actually, I played the original Final Fantasy back in the day. I played Crisis Core. I was pretty into it. And then I played the remake whenever that came out. I didn't really like the changes to the story too much. But the combat was really nice. I thought it was really good. The changes to the combat. And the graphics were really good. I think the aesthetics were very true to the original. You know, but with like a modern paint job. The new one, Rebirth, the Part 2 sequel, I want to play that. So that's also kind of top of mind, but it's kind of like I got to choose one or the other kind of thing, because just I don't have enough time to play every single game simultaneously. Story for Kingdom Hearts is quite fucked, to be honest, because even the 1 and 2 and 3 are totally like straight up continuations. They're a bit of a standalone between each other, even though there are lots of ramifications. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I guess I look forward to seeing how that looks in practice. I've only kind of played the first couple hours of the first Kingdom Hearts. I think for me, one thing that I gotta get away from is sometimes I could be a bit of a completionist with some of these video games. I don't initially set out to be, but it's like I wind up getting so sucked in that I want to like find everything in the game. And I won't have enough time to do all that as like a streamer if I want to play through a bunch of games. So I think I need to shift over to like a storyline mentality. Like, okay, I'm playing to get through the story, and I gotta like reel myself in from trying to do every little side quest and finding every nook and cranny. Because I ran into that when I first played Kingdom Hearts. I would like get stuck on like, I think it was like the first fight that you have with Riku. Is it Riku, his name? It's Riku, right? The rival character? Because that first battle that you have with him, I don't know if you're actually able to win against him, but I just could not for the life of me beat him in that first battle. And I would sit there just trying to retry over and over and over again, and it's like, you don't really need to do that to advance the story, but I just can't help myself, you know? Yeah. Stand by for examination and suggested products. Okay. Okay. That is interesting, yeah. My buddy is like so good at video games. He probably does beat him. I mean, I don't know. I guess I just don't have the time. When it comes to Smash Bros, I'm kind of like a god at that game for whatever reason. I think maybe it's just because I've played the different Smash Bros games since I was a kid, like all the muscle memories there. But other games like the Dark Souls games, I just could never get like the timing down properly, and I didn't really have the patience to get the timing down in those games. But yeah, if and when I get around to, I will get around to it. When I get around to Kingdom Hearts, I can't really fall into that trap that I fall into, where I like sit there trying to beat a battle that maybe isn't super necessary to win. Otherwise, I'll be sitting there playing that game for 2 years rather than wrapping it up in like a couple weeks. I remember, I don't know if you were here for this, but I played through, I don't even know if I had it on this channel. I played through the Jack and Daxter game. Like, I wanted to play through all of them. Or at least the first 3. And so I played through the first one, and I didn't realize that the first one was like completely not really connected to the second and third game. And the whole reason I was playing was for like the second and third game. I thought like, I just remember I had like nostalgic memories of those games having like an interesting world and storyline. So I played through the first game, and it's very bare bones, and I get through it, and then I go in to play the second game, and I'm reading about it and everything, and I'm like, oh fuck. I totally did not need to play that game at all. That was such a waste of time. It was okay. It wasn't super boring, but it's like an old school, antiquated kind of gameplay style, the old school platformer formula. And if I didn't need to play it, I wouldn't have played it. Yeah, it's very dated.
To a full-strength grizzly bear taking him seriously, especially since there's a much smaller predator known to give gorillas problems. Gorillas have been documented getting preyed on by African leopards. Even with jungle leopards being bulkier due to less competition, that's still an at most 180-pound cat past tensing Optimus Prime. Now let me be fair, these are rare, and leopards usually go for hoofed animals, wild pigs, and monkeys. Gorillas are actually too big and too social to be a regular on the grocery list, so it sounds like my whole point is trash. But that same paper listing gorilla on gorilla violence.
You know what's kind of crazy is, I don't know if he just said this right now, I can, sometimes my attention's kind of split here. Gorillas are vegetarians, aren't they? And it's just kind of crazy to think that they're one of like the biggest megafauna that we have living around today. And the conventional wisdom from people is like, you can't get swole on a vegetarian diet. Of course I know that's not true, because there are people that do. One of my buddies is big into working out, and he's a complete vegetarian, but he's pretty swole. But it's just interesting to think that most of the... Well, no, that's not true either, actually, now that I think about it. A lot of the megafauna are actually herbivores, like elephants, giraffes, brachiosaurs, sauropods in general. Ceratopsids, rhinos, right? Rhinos aren't carnivorous, are they? Oh shit, what am I doing?
Violence also showed the aftermath of leopard attacks. In those reports, all leopard victims took bite wounds to the head and most of the arms, with lacerations localized about the neck and claw marks on the trunk. So even though it is rare and a one-on-one between a silverback and a leopard might murk both, if a gorilla can struggle with less than 200 pounds of predator, a 900-pound duratio would give Harambe a bunkmate. Also, against 100 men, there are some very real issues that could be game over for the gorilla. The big one is endurance. Gorillas are dangerously close to being hot girl fit. They're best using explosive bursts of energy, not sustained strain over a long period of time, and a fight against 100 humans would likely last hours. Which is really bad considering compared to us, gorillas have poor temperature control. Gorillas don't have as many sweat glands as humans, and if we're talking about mountain gorillas, the thick fur would
Oh,
make
you know what?
101 for gorilla.
Yeah, I'm kind of aware of this idea that humans, we don't know what the limit is on how far, or yeah, how far they can long distance run, because they're able to cool themselves down versus other animals, which my understanding is in the wild, they would, or in caveman days, we used to run animals down in this way. We would like chase them down until they tired themselves out. But I wasn't aware, and I'm kind of wondering now, are sweat glands something that's common among apes? Sweat gland common in apes? Because I had always just kind of assumed like it was specific to the like Homo sapiens evolutionary tree, but eccrine? What is eccrine? Eccrine like related to salt? Sweat glands are primary small tubular glands distributed across nearly the entire human, but crucial for regulation. Oh, like a crete, maybe? Distributing across all skin to regulate temperature, they function. Hyperhidrosis. I used to think I had hyperhidrosis because my hands would get so sweaty all the time. It's probably honestly just due to my diet and like lack of sleep. What is Eccrine glands versus epocrine glands. Produce watery sweat for cooling and all over the body, opening directly on skin. Epocrine glands produce thick, fatty sweat activated at puberty, open into hair follicles, armpits, and groin, and cause body odor when bacteria break down their secretions. Interesting. Okay. Particularly in old world monkeys and apes, while humans are unique in their high density of these glands across their body for thermoregulation. Jeez. Okay, well, you know, I want to know what animals have sweat glands. Are exclusively found in mammals with humans, horses, and primates. Sweating heavily. Okay, so horses, I know that. Horses have... How long can horses... What would it be? It'd be, not speed, endurance. Endurance, run, for. I know grammatically that's not really... Healthy, well-trained horses can maintain a steady, moderate pace for 20 to 30 miles a day, while elite endurance horses are capable of traveling up to 100. These, however, require specialized, careful management. Now, it's kind of curious, like if horses could communicate like humans could, if they had the same brain as us, or like a similar brain. With their body, would they be able to just continue long distance running if they knew that's what the objective was? If they like understood the assignment, you know? Okay, all right. Humans, horses, primates, hippopotamuses. Oh yeah, I know that because they produce like a secretion that keeps their body moisturized. Camels, okay. That makes a lot of sense for camels actually with their like desert traveling. Oh, I did not know this. Dogs and cats do have sweat glands. Oh, on their paws. But they do not use them primarily for cooling. See, I always just kind of thought that they didn't because I know dogs will pant as thermoregulation. So I don't know, I just kind of assumed they didn't have any sweat glands, but I guess they have them on their paws. I wonder what the purpose is of having them on their paws. Pigs, cattle, and sheep. Let's see here. Why do dogs have sweat glands? Sweaty paws? Because they have sweat glands in their paw pads that release moisture to help them cool down slightly and improve traction, especially when hot, excited, or stressed. While sweating through paws helps minor cooling through evaporation, their main cooling method is panting. I mean, it almost makes me think that the thermoregulation aspect of their paws probably isn't the primary reason why this has evolved in them. Almost like a secondary effect. I would assume that it's actually due to this, the grip and the traction. Like one interesting thing that I heard is that if you ever been like if you ever been soaking in like the bathtub for too long and your fingers get all pruny, I believe what I heard was that the purpose behind that is so that you can have more grip in like a moisture-rich environment. It's like increasing the surface area of your fingers or something along those lines. Vasodilation. Anyways, let me see what you wrote here. I'm gonna go to the store real quick to buy some food for the week. I'll be back in 30 minutes or so, but in case you're not online anymore, I'll be more than happy to talk about your whole gameplay plan configuration at some point. I used to be top 100 on League almost a decade ago. Oh, that's pretty dope, dude. And I did stream for a bit to a few hundred of people so I can share it. Oh, nice. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, if you're interested, maybe at some time I'll just like bring you on if you want to do like a Discord call kind of thing. And I definitely, yeah, I'd be open to hear what your advice is on how to grow the stream and whatnot. Appreciate you saying that.
Versus 1. The men and the risk of heat stroke. That is, if the ape doesn't just have a heart attack. Cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death in gorillas and zoos, and 70% of male gorillas and zoos suffer from heart disease that'll past tense them prematurely. Now that might just apply to zoo gorillas, but it's still a factor. Another is the very temperament of the gorilla is highly non-confrontational. They're more likely to run away than run a fade. But most importantly, the brawling, grappling build is not a good combat style against most.
Yeah, sure, we can do some Discord, Carl. I'll just hit you up on Discord. Alright, man, have a good one. Or, I mean, if you're back, I'm still on. I'll see you then. But otherwise, have a good one. But yeah, reach out to me. We'll set something up.
Multiple enemies. We know that because there's another African predator that's been giving gorillas hell, and you may not have even realized it. And it's weird because for a while, gorillas and chimpanzees seem like they were on good terms. They've been recorded foraging together, and they'll even have their version of primate playdates. That all changed when the chimps started chimping. A couple years ago in Luongo National Park, scientists witnessed a gang of 18 chimps jump a gorilla family of 5. That's 3 females, 1 baby, and a silverback. The turf war lasted an hour, and even with the silverback apparently testing ragdoll physics, throwing chimps in the air, and even managing to injure
Do I have video of this?
eventually he was surrounded and chased off by 9 chimps. The adults got away, but the chimps managed to snatch the baby gorilla of the group, which was promptly Eve. The second attack involved 27 chimpanzees and 7 gorillas, and this time, the silverback made a business decision and immediately climbed out of the trees and fled the scene. Yes, comparing chimps to humans is comparing durians to jackfruit. The moral here is the one gorilla can not only be overwhelmed, but neutralized by numbers. Because if there's one thing that's being dangerously underrated, it's the power of friendship. Don't laugh, I'm serious. If you remember this picture, then you know this was the 100 Men 1 Gorilla of 2018. It's pretty self-explanatory. Everything here is coming for your life except the 2 you pick to run defense for you. And I'm just gonna kill the suspense. If one of those picks isn't the 10,000 rats, you have no idea how big 10,000 is. Add eagles for aerial support and the rest of the field would have over 200 rats to deal with each. And it's cause the power of plurality is one of the most broken strategies in nature. Mobbing.
This is so true though, right? Even for like insects. What's the term for insects? It's damn it, there's a term for, is it, why do I think, no, it's not eukaryote. Social insects. Like for social ants and social insects.
At 20 in this life lesson, pilot whales have been
social insects. Oh, eusociality. That's the word I was looking for. I was approximating eukaryote. It's that U part. Actually, what does U mean? Like an etymological. U word prefix, because I see it a lot. One of the reasons I do this, sometimes I look up like word origins and stuff, is because when you read words that you don't know, knowing like the roots of them, you can kind of learn from like the context clues and kind of the root words. You can kind of get a sense of what it means even without having to look up the definition. Oh wait, you means good. I knew that already. I knew that from my philosophy classes, because there's eudaimonia, which got brought up when we were talking about philosophy, and eudaimonia meant like the good life. So eusocial would be good social, I guess. Social. Word meaning. Describes the highest level animal social organization characterized by cooperative brood care, overlapping generations, strict reproductive division of labor. It refers to highly organized. Okay, so when they say you here, when they mean good, they're basically just saying that these are like highly, like they're really, like they're great. They're really, they're using good here as almost like an adjective meaning. Oh, I guess in Greek it could mean good or true. So they're saying true social, as in like these are the fully realized social animals. Kind of cool.
On record chasing orcas out of high competition areas and even actively following the sounds of orca hunts. There's plenty of examples of weaponized unity in nature, but probably my favorite case of what's akin to a mob happens off the coast of South Africa, where fur seals have to risk their spot on the census every time they check the fridge, because the seals can't go out for groceries without the chance of running into the biggest predatory fish on earth. Every year, great white sharks will gather around fur seal nurseries and snatch any inexperienced pups. The problem is, so many sharks show up that a seal can dodge one great white right into the jaws of another. You've seen this movie before, but there's an alternate ending. Scientists have recorded fur seals squatting up into one giant group and using their numbers to turn on the sharks closing in. And as the mob gets bigger, the seal force gets more confident, leading to them escorting the 20-foot assault submarines back out to sea. So with all this, now it doesn't seem like a stretch to carry the 100 men over just one gorilla. You could argue that the seals and the other mob merchants aren't actually getting physical with their final boss. That's true. Everyone's asking if 100 men could off a gorilla. No one's asking how. Well, that's why I'm here. But first, obligatory, don't try this on a gorilla, or at least don't blame me for the consequences if you do. In a fight against a simian weighing a shack and a half, it's all about attacking the weak points, and a gorilla's weak points are the same as ours. Eyes, throat, mouth, and for measure, the jewels of the south. It's all about delivering damage that actually matters, and to do that, someone would have to perform the Draymond Green special and go for the eyes and blind him. Someone else would have to suffocate the supersized simian, either by bear hugging his windpipe, which only Tarzan backpacking plot armor can do, or by shoving your entire arm down his throat. And since you're already negotiating your arm elbow deep in esophagus, you'd also have to pull the gorilla's tongue out. I call that the leopard method, because a 73-year-old once soloed an attacking leopard by reaching into its mouth and ripping out the leopard's liquor. And speaking of grabbing food, someone would have to be elected to perform Draymond's final smash and go for the gorilla's unmentionables. Hey, don't judge. This is war. The rest would have to use their combined strength to pin the primate down, with the remainder delivering kicks to the gorilla's flank. The most powerful natural attack to the gorilla's most vulnerable area. That would probably be the best way to chip away at a gorilla. Some problem though, this is still a...
I do wonder, like, from an evolutionary standpoint, is the reason why shots to the family jewels is so painful compared to like other regions of our body. I wonder if it's because like the primary function of the male of our species is to pass on that genetic material, and so it's like, okay, we want to have like an evolutionary adaptation to be like the most responsive, the most careful and considerate of the the genetic material making part of our body, right? Because like otherwise, from an evolutionary standpoint, like everything else, it doesn't really matter if we don't have the ability to pass on those genetics. Although, of course, it's worth mentioning, like we can personify the whole evolutionary process. Evolution isn't really like it doesn't have like a conscious directive, I suppose. It's kind of a trial and error thing. Really just kind of like chemistry working itself out. But it's not like it's designed to like, okay, I am deliberatively, consciously trying to design you for this purpose. Right? But it's just kind of more of like trial and error and what works and what gets passed on. And so having an evolutionary adaptation to protect the family jewels, the genetic material, is going to make it more likely that those members of the species are going to be able to pass on their genetics to the next generation. So their next generation has the evolutionary adaptation of wanting to protect the family jewels, which again makes it more likely to pass on their genetics to the next one. So therefore those genetics are quote unquote have an evolutionary advantage because they're more likely to survive.
A gorilla we're talking about. Even with everything I said about their strength being overrated, a gorilla fighting for its life would show you destruction like you've never seen. It doesn't matter how many men, the method, or the facet. For those first few, their only outcome is a close cast.
Like a disco ball.
Even if numbers eventually win, those first dozen or so men would be horrifically maimed, mutilated, or straight up murked. You can argue that if I can mention that 100 men running over the hill would intimidate even a gorilla, witnessing men getting mauled and disfigured would inflict psychological damage. There's an argument that witnessing the sheer carnage would weaken the resolve of the others, destabilizing the army. And you have to remember, if mobbing...
Yeah, it probably would, but it is worth considering. Like, that's something that humans have dealt with for much of our history, right? We used to have people charging at each other with swords and then muskets, and we managed to actually get people to do that. And so, I mean, I guess if you have disciplined enough people to go 100v1 on a gorilla, then this should be possible.
Doing so in a way that guarantees a portion of your team sees Tupac live isn't. Even animals like hyenas.
You know what? I don't even know why I say that. We have enough people that do stupid shit today for attention, and like put their body at risk doing so. Like Jake Paul, for example, or the guys who are in Jackass. That you probably could find. I wouldn't be surprised if you could find 100 dudes in their, like, their 20s who are willing to just do stupid shit for attention or money.
Back if they sense they don't have enough of an advantage in a clan fight. Ah, but there's a catch. The tweet that started all this said,
Make it happen. Fund it. You probably do this in a country that has low regulations. This would be the real million fan challenge.
If men can watch bunkmates get blown to bits in a war, then you can find 100 willing to die about a gorilla. If they can withstand the visceral reaction of seeing jaws getting detached, limbs getting dislocated, and a field of open fractures, 100 men would definitely beat a gorilla. And moral of the story? You have strayed so far from the halo of Harambe. Yeah, this is the part where I do the annoying thing and turn a tweet made by someone who definitely wouldn't pass a P-test into a lecture. But like I said in the other video, gorillas have already been getting the middle finger from humanity, either in the wild or in zoos. Whether it's trophy hunting or bushmeat, habitat loss or unsupervised minor, humans have the highest KD ratio against our green machine cousins. Because a gorilla has never been on record life depriving of.
It's always fun to me too when people are like, they watch like Jurassic Park, which by the way, it's a movie. It's a fiction movie. And it's meant to be like interesting and suspenseful. But like people will watch Jurassic Park and they're like, yeah, see, that's why we shouldn't bring dinosaurs back, because if dinosaurs came back, like we'd all be fucked or something like that. And it's like, bro, we humans build machines to do massive. We build nuclear fucking bombs. Okay, a dinosaur in real life, realistically, it wouldn't really be a huge issue for us. We would design, like, we have like tank, like heavy artillery guns. We have anti-warship heavy artillery guns. We would just make some sort of like Toyota Tacoma mounted turret that would just mow down a T-Rex if we needed to. This wouldn't be like a real problem. It makes for good entertainment, which by the way, I gotta react to the new Jurassic Park movie. I actually heard some pretty good things about it. The other ones have disappointed me, but I heard some good things about this one. But it wouldn't realistically be a problem.
Person. Even when they may.
Also on that note, I used to play, there's like a Jurassic Park builder game. I enjoyed it. It was fun. If you're into like park builder games, it's pretty cool. You can like customize the T-Rexes, because you know the whole thing with Jurassic Park is like they play genetic manipulation. So part of like the game feature is that you can like design dinosaurs, and I think the newest one too lets you do like crossbreeding to produce like hybridized creatures, which is pretty cool. I didn't play that one, but like yeah, you'd make like custom dinosaurs. You could make them like more aggressive. You could fight them against each other. You'd have like weather events that would cause like dinosaurs to break out. You have to like have an economy for your park, so you'd have like gift shops and like restaurants and transportation to like move tourists around and stuff like. It was pretty cool. And of course, like the dinosaurs would break out, you'd have to have like a team that contains them when they break out, and then you know you get lawsuits when people get killed by the dinosaur and so. It was pretty dope. I liked it. I have on my Steam account, I have Zoo Tycoon, which obviously it doesn't have all that kind of like fantastical shit, but I've been meaning to play it. I want to build my own zoo. That sounds pretty tight.
Extinction mostly because of humans, but not all humans. Some dedicate their entire lives to the welfare of this Giga Ape, which is why I will be donating to Virunga National Park. Not only do they treat and protect the gorillas there as family, they often have to.
That's on my bucket list. I want to go to. I know I'm not going to pronounce it right. Nurungo National Park? I know the word. I know I'm just not pronouncing it right. But it looks super fucking cool. Oh, he's talking about a different one, Virunga National Park. I thought he was talking about Goro Conservation Area, this place. Look at this shit. I gotta go here one of these days. Someday in the future, when I become a famous streamer and I get paid millions of dollars to sit at home and jack off all day. A boy could dream.
Risk their lives regularly going against poachers. That and the fact that I made a video detailing how to murk an endangered species makes my soul itch, so link down below if you'd like to donate as well. I'm not kidding when I say they're family. This man was seen coming in one of his young gorillas after his mother died. And fun fact, Wounded Nationals where we got this gem. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this video. Fun little video that nobody should take seriously. Nah, but I think I'm gonna start doing the animal versus animal face-off videos again. So let me know what animal matchup you'd like to see me yap about. There's one I've been wanting to get into for a while. Friendly reminder that I have a book, 100 Animals That'll Bleed.
He has a book? Cool. Which animals was he talking about he wanted to see a matchup? A wolf versus, what is this, like a puma or something? I feel like the puma wins easily. What would be a good animal matchup, though? I remember they used to have that show on, like, Spike TV or whatever. But, yeah, what would be a good matchup? Like, I don't know, maybe alligator versus gorilla? Tiger versus lion was kind of an interesting one, but, like, you already kind of know the answer. It's a tiger. Tiger winds up winning. I guess it would have to be animals that typically don't really run in the same environment, so they usually don't interact with each other. Because otherwise, like, if you have two animals that are, like, share the same territory, you're going to quickly find out which one's the winner and which one isn't. Which, I guess, you know what, like, there are interesting matchups, like wolves versus bears, right? You would think, like, bears win. But the thing is that wolves hunt in packs, and we actually do have instances of wolves taking down bears because they, you know, like surround it and kind of wear it down and everything. So I guess, I don't know. I mean, that's a question is, would we be considering just 1v1? Like, does it have to be just 1v1? Or would we consider, like, okay, if this is an animal that hunts in packs, do they get to bring their homies to, like, do a gang jumping of this other animal? What is considered a fair competition in that circumstance? Would be a cool matchup. Let's see, cats versus... I was gonna say cats versus foxes, but I think we already know that foxes will actually kill, like, domesticated cats. So that one wouldn't be super interesting. Tiger versus bear, maybe? Like, we might have to choose one of the smaller bears. Maybe like a, what is it, a brown bear? Or is it a black bear? Which one's smaller? Black bear versus brown. Okay, so black bears are smaller. So maybe like a black bear versus like a saber-toothed tiger? Not a saber-toothed tiger, but a Siberian tiger, maybe?
There's one I've been wanting to get into for a while. Friendly reminder.
Okay. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see what Veritasium's got on his channel. I was trying to react to the faster than light one at one point, but I wasn't really able to pay attention. Or it's hard to, like, to let the, like, sciencey concepts like that sink in, the higher level ones, when you're trying to, like, multitask. I don't know, let's try it again.
In
Maybe I was a little sleep deprived at that
Einstein
time.
came up with a thought experiment that showed quantum mechanics breaks one of the most sacred principles in physics, that nothing can go faster than the speed of light. Physicists assumed he was wrong. They thought that at 56, Einstein was an old man past his prime and just unable to...
You claim nothing can go faster than the speed of light, but have you considered that you're fucking old?
accept the new theory of physics because it was too radical.
But 30 years later, one man stumbled across Einstein's forgotten paper when he realized something. The prediction could actually be tested.
Beat the Imperial
When
out,
scientists ran the experiment, they were shocked. Quantum physics really does break the universal speed limit.
We're obliged
Hold
to
out trooper
something
count?
like
Oh, they're
actions
probably
going
talking about
faster than
this, huh?
light
Yeah.
from one place to another.
This is a video about one of the spookiest and most misunderstood experiments in all of physics. And it might
button do I
be
have
the
set for this?
strongest
Is it
evidence
control
we
one?
have that we live in many worlds.
If the sun were
It
to
is.
disappear
I
all
need
of
to
a
find a
sudden,
better key for
how
that.
long would it take until we noticed and were released out into space? Newton's theory says that
Oh,
gravity acts
shit.
instantly across any distance.
What the-
So if there's a change in gravity, we should feel it immediately. But Newton himself was disturbed by this. That one body may act upon another at a distance is to me so great an absurdity that I believe no man who has a competent faculty of thinking can ever fall into it.
But in 1905, Einstein realized action at a distance isn't just absurd, it leads to outright peril.
Okay, so we'll probably have to pause a lot to actually take in everything that goes on in this video. But what we're at right now is that, and I don't think he's gotten to this point yet, but basically he's going to get to the point that gravity, per, I think, Einstein's theory, should have been predicted to travel at the speed of light, which I think is something that we recently confirmed in the past couple of years.
Paradoxes.
Einstein had discovered that observers moving at different speeds can disagree about when events happened. Let's say you see two things happen at the same time. An observer speeding past would see it differently. To them, one of these happened first, and both points of view are equally valid.
Okay, hold on. I have to look at the video here. This argument has always kind of tripped me up, but then again, I never really spent too much time like sitting there and trying to understand it. So I want to see if at least the Veritasium video, maybe they have like a graphic or something that will make me better understand what the argument is. This is, by the way, this is kind of how he first stumbled upon his theory. I think he was traveling in a train and he was thinking to himself, like, he's traveling in a train and he's seeing an event that somebody who's stationary, not traveling in the train, would perceive differently than him. And I think that's where the kind of the relativity thing started to materialize in his head. But I gotta be honest, I've never fully understood this. The closest I got to this was I was reading a book about relativity, which I still have, I need to actually read it. But it talks about kind of like when you're traveling through space, like you're almost like going through the world, almost like, how do I put it? They use like an analogy with like a loaf of bread. And you can think of almost like if you're watching a movie, you have like the frame rate. And it's like you're passing through more frames faster that you're traveling. And I think it has something to do with that. I'd have to like pull out a diagram and everything to make this make sense. But let's turn this mission. Oh wait, I got the drill. Go to a safe spot. I need to find a safe space. Do this Veritasium thing.
To them, two things happen at the same time. An observer speeding past would see it differently. To them, one of these happened first, and both points of view are equally valid. But in the case of gravity...
So he explained it. They had a graphic for it. I still don't really know why that's the case. But whatever, we'll take his word for it because we kind of need that to move to the next part of the video.
This leads to disaster. Say you see the sun disappearing and Earth flying off at the same time, as Newton predicted. Then, the other observer sees something impossible. They see the Earth flying off first, even while the sun is still there, and it should, of course, be pulling the Earth in. So to them, it looks like cause and effect are reversed. The only way out of this paradox is to reject the assumption we started with, so gravity can't be instant. It took Einstein 10 years to fix this issue.
Oh, I see here. I think this is because of the speed of light. And that if you see something, maybe I'm misunderstanding this, but if you see something, it's going to be dependent on how long it takes for the information to reach you, right? And information in this case would be how our sensory organs perceive light or electromagnetic radiation in the visible light spectrum. So it'd be visible light hitting that object, bouncing back, and then hitting us. And so I think that's where you have this issue, is we would see these events happening at different times because the light would hit us at different times. But I don't think that necessarily means that these objects, or that like the event is happening at different times. It's just when are we perceiving it at different times? And I think this is why we're starting to touch on the speed of gravity, because, well, actually, would that cause a paradox? Because then we're saying that it's not actually that these events are happening at different times, it's just our perception of it's happening at different times. Or maybe this is what's going to get resolved by Einstein and these other people. Hold on,
And in the process, he completely overhauled our understanding of gravity. Gravity is caused by the bending of space-time. When there's a change in gravity, that only affects the local space-time, and then that ripple spreads out to nearby regions, which spread farther out until eventually they reach us. This theory of gravity is local because effects spread from place to place at the speed of light instead of being instant. From our frame of reference, if the sun disappeared, that ripple would take about 8 minutes to reach us. Another observer might disagree about the length of the delay, but now we all agree that the sun disappeared first.
This is why nothing can go faster than light. The delay between cause and effect ensures all observers agree on the order.
After Einstein fixed gravity, all...
I'm gonna be honest, I'm still pretty uncomfortable with this, this interpretation, and I need to, like, review my physics and everything. Sometimes it just feels to me, and it's really just because I'm kind of ignorant. I don't know enough about relativity, but sometimes it feels like we just kind of arbitrarily decided that that's the case. Because, like, we're uncomfortable with the idea that things are actually happening at different times for us. But I know that that probably isn't true. It's hard for me to imagine that they wouldn't have a better justification. And it might just be the oversimplified way that we learn about in school. And that I'm kind of, like, overthinking it. Which leads to, like, weird... like, seemingly weird aspects to it, but it's really just my misunderstanding. What's going on here? Then the ninth company saboteurs.
All of classical physics obeyed this important rule. So then,
Come at me, bro.
Einstein studied the new theory of quantum mechanics and made a terrible discovery. This is one of the most famous photographs in physics. It was taken at the 1927 Solvay conference, where the architects of the brand new quantum theory gathered to discuss it. Around 60% of the attendees would win Nobel Prizes, but Einstein thought they'd gotten something fundamentally wrong, and this was his chance to prove it. So he took to the stage with a thought experiment. Imagine you fire a single electron through a narrow slit toward a circular detection screen. Well, quantum mechanics says that this electron has some sort of wave associated with it, called a wave function, which spreads...
This really does make me want to review my physics, because there was a time where I was, like, deep diving into this shit, and I'm so rusty on it now. And it's something I really want to understand more, is relativity. I want to understand quantum physics. And I've been thinking, it hasn't been something I brought up yet, but I want to set aside time to stream, actually. I need a study for my PE, which would be like my professional engineering license. First, I need to get my EIT. But that's gonna, for me, I want to review the shit that I learned in engineering in college. Because I'm kind of rusty on all of those things anyways, and I've been wanting to do it for a long time, so it's like killing two birds with one stone. I need it for the test. I need it for my own, my own edification, I guess. And then I also figured I could kind of turn it into streaming content. I think it'd be interesting to have... I know there are streams out there where people do educational material and stuff like that, but I think kind of the combination of different stuff I do on my channel might be kind of unique to actually also include, like, we're actually going to learn, like, really genuinely learn shit.
Out through space as it travels. When the electron hits the screen, you detect it at a single point. Where it turns up depends on the amplitude of the wave.
Nice.
If the wave is very big,
probably need like one more
area,
actual mission in order to
more likely to turn up there.
level up
Let's
to 20
say it
or to
appears
36.
Here. So far, everyone was following. This is what
Okay, hold on, I wasn't following.
if the wave single point through space as it travels, wave associated with it, called a wave function, which spreads out through space as it travels. When the electron hits the screen, you detect it at a single point. Where it turns up depends on the amplitude of the wave. If the wave is very big in a particular area, the electron is more likely to turn up there. Let's say it appears here. So far, everyone was following. This is what quantum mechanics predicts. But Einstein's next question surprised them. Why doesn't the electron turn up at this other spot a moment later? There's only one electron, so we can't detect it twice. But the way quantum mechanics ensures this is that when the electron was detected at the first spot, its wave function collapsed to 0 everywhere else instantly. That's why the probability of finding it at the second spot is now 0. There's no longer any wave there. But Einstein asked the audience to think about what this means. The measurement here must instantly affect the wave function over here, no matter how far apart these locations are.
Oh, what's the term for this? This is it's something about information. Something about the speed of information. That information travels instantaneously in quantum physics. Oh, there's a term. He's probably going to say the term. I should play it.
are. In other words, quantum mechanics requires instant influences across distance. It violates locality. Einstein concluded his talk by saying this is an entirely peculiar mechanism of action at a distance, and that this implies to my mind a contradiction with the postulate of relativity. Einstein's argument was so simple and his talk so short that people didn't know what to make of it. One audience member said, "I feel myself in a very difficult position because I don't understand what precisely is the point which Einstein wants to make. No doubt it is my fault." That man was Niels Bohr, the most influential figure in quantum physics at the
I
time.
like this headdress.
Bohr's institute in Copenhagen had become the hub for the new field. Dozens of young scientists like Werner Heisenberg
shit
came
on.
to learn from him. As one of his disciples remembers, Bohr had invited a number of us to his home where we sat close to him, some literally
Why
at
does it
his
look
feet
like that
on the
here?
floor, so as not to miss a word. Bohr wasn't the one who wrote the mathematical
different
rules
one.
of quantum mechanics. Instead, he told everyone what they meant. While others were confused by the theory, Bohr offered answers. His philosophy became known as the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics.
My general understanding of the Copenhagen interpretation is you have the wave function, it describes everything that you can know about a particle or a system, and it evolves according to the Schrödinger equation, and at some point you're going to make a measurement, and at that point the wave function collapses.
I think that one bit of that you said was like, the wave function is all you can know about the particle. And I think that was like a pretty important point to Bohr.
As Bohr would put it, it's wrong to think that the task of physics is to find out how nature is.
The job of physics is just to predict measurements in the lab, which quantum mechanics does incredibly well. As for what the electron is doing when you're not looking, well, to Bohr, that question didn't even make sense to ask. The wave function tells you everything physics can or should tell you.
Einstein couldn't stand the Copenhagen interpretation. In a letter to his ally Schrödinger, he called it a tranquilizing philosophy, or religion. Einstein felt his thought experiment exposed a critical weakness in the Copenhagen interpretation. He'd shown that the way the wave function collapses is non-local, and so he reasoned maybe the wave function is the problem. Maybe it's not the best way to describe the electron after all. He may not have convinced Bohr of this during his talk, but he was determined to do it during the rest of the conference.
Physicists tell a version of this story, that you will find in physics textbooks and in pop science books, and that, physicists tell amongst ourselves that what happened was Einstein and Bohr had a great debate, and Einstein was unhappy with quantum mechanics because it was fundamentally probabilistic. He tried to show that there were conceivable experiments that you could use to get around those uncertainty relations. And Bohr showed over and over and over again that you couldn't do that. And eventually, everybody agreed with Bohr.
That's Adam Becker, author of What is Real, a great book about the history of quantum mechanics. As he explained to us, Bohr may have just misunderstood the purpose of Einstein's thought experiments. We have documented evidence of this in at least one case. Einstein described a thought experiment that involved a box of photons and a mirror. Its purpose
Seems like everybody kind of misunderstood, right? Because it seems like everybody kind of fell. I don't want to say fall, but they took Bohr's answers to kind of be the prevailing ones. And at some point, no offense to Einstein, I respect him a great deal. It seems like he wasn't able to kind of communicate what he was stumbling upon very well to the broader scientific community at the time.
to show the non-locality of the Copenhagen interpretation in action.
Bohr just misunderstood it. And when he recounted it to others later on, he drew a little diagram of what Einstein's thought experiment setup was, and it just didn't have the mirror in it at all. And yet this is taken as like the great victory for Bohr over Einstein, which is crazy. The history is written by the victors, right?
To understand what Einstein was arguing for, think of the relationship between Newton.
This would be an example of that not being the case. That quote that gets pushed around a lot. When you think about it, the examples that people give to illustrate this point about history being decided by the victors or whatever, when people give examples of this being the case, those examples that they give are like the counter example to that being the case. Because if we know that a prevailing story at one point in time was like the wrong story, we know that because the victors weren't able to actually hide the truth. and later on, like people were able to kind of debunk the false narrative.
Gravity and general relativity. Newton's theory works well in most situations, but in that theory, gravity is a non-local force, leading to paradoxes. This was the motivation for coming up with Einstein's general relativity, which is local. Einstein believed the same logic applied to quantum mechanics. His thought experiment revealed that quantum theory is non-local, so just like with Newton's gravity, quantum mechanics must not be the final theory. There must be a local one that will replace it. And as a bonus, he thought this new theory might even unify gravity with the quantum world.
It'd be hard to imagine coming to the final theory right away, and the fact that you can see paradoxes like this would make you think there's got to be more to it that we just don't have yet.
Absolutely.
But Einstein hadn't even persuaded Bohr that quantum mechanics really is non-local. So in 1935, he made one last attempt to convince the community that there was a contradiction between quantum mechanics and relativity. With the help of two younger colleagues, Boris Podolsky and Nathan Rosen, he formulated another, even more striking thought experiment that shows the non-locality of quantum mechanics.
Schrodinger's cat.
This paper is now known as the EPR paper.
I don't know if it's the case, but the Schrodinger's cat thing, I feel like a lot of people understand what it is. I remember I had a friend who took quantum mechanics in college, and she argued with me like Schrodinger's cat shows that in quantum mechanics, like the cat's both alive and dead. And I had read that actually Schrodinger's cat was initially put forward as a thought experiment to show that there was an issue with quantum mechanics. Not that the cat was actually alive and dead at the same time, but that the cat has to be either alive and dead, but quantum mechanics doesn't really, like the theories of quantum mechanics don't really resolve for that. And so the issue was that the thought experiment was showing is that you have situations where you have things that are reliant on quantum mechanics that are not probabilistic and that don't exist in like a superposition of different possibilities, that it kind of has to be one or the other. And the whole point was just to kind of show like, okay, there's something missing in our theories that we need to resolve because there's a disconnect between the macro and the micro world that's going on here. But I don't think that's what he's describing here. The EPR paper, I think, is something a little bit different.
After its authors. Here is a simplified version of their thought experiment. Imagine a single high-energy photon suddenly becomes two particles. One of them is an electron, and to conserve total charge, the other is a positron. Since one is negative and the other is positive, they cancel out. But both electrons and positrons have a property called spin, and like electric charge, this also needs to be conserved. If the light started out with zero spin, well then the two particles together must have zero total spin as well. For example, if the direction of the electron spin is this, the positron has to have spin in the opposite direction, so that they perfectly cancel out. But the electron spin could have been this instead, or this. All of these possibilities are valid, so the rules of quantum mechanics say that the electron does all of these possible things at once until it's measured. It's not just that we don't know what the spin is, the electron really is doing everything. The only restriction is whatever the electron is doing, the positron must do the exact opposite. This also means that when the electron is measured and its state is determined, so is the positron's. This is what we mean by entanglement. The two particles' states depend on each other. But how do we measure the particles and force them to do one thing? Well, for that, we use the Stern-Gerlach machine. It's essentially a strangely shaped magnet, and it's how we measure spin. The orientation of the magnets determines what axis you're measuring the spin in. For example, if the machine is like this, and we shoot in a particle with spin in the positive z direction, it will certainly go to this spot we'll call plus. If instead a particle has negative z spin, it will certainly go down to minus. So this Stern-Gerlach machine measures spin in the z-axis. So what happens when we put in one of our entangled particles? When the electron goes into this machine, it either goes to plus or to minus, with 50-50 probability. Let's say our electron goes to plus. Well, this means it went from being in an indeterminate state to positive z spin. But what about the positron? Well, the only way to conserve spin is if it's now in the negative z spin state. When it's measured, there is a 100% chance it's minus. It has to be that way to conserve spin. But the authors of the paper realized there's something very odd about this result.
To see what's wrong with this, Let's imagine that the electron and the positron carry these envelopes with them. These envelopes represent the state of the two particles. Until they're measured, both of the particles are in a superposition of being plus and minus at the same time. So both options are in the envelope.
It's interesting because I did read a book one time that was diving into this kind of stuff. It might be the same relativity book. And I remember a lot of these terms, these experiments and stuff like that. I remember the Copenhagen interpretation and the arguments around that. I remember this exact same thought experiment about having like the electrons in envelopes, and that if you change the state of one, then you're automatically changing the state of the other. Like you have to, right, to have conservation of energy. Yes. Let's get the fuck off this planet. Okay. We'll get the fuck out of the planet, but also I want to kind of pay attention to this.
But now let's move the positive.
Ooh, she's a cutie. I know that's a bad picture to pause on, but it's funny because I had this conversation with other people where some like really intelligent girls feel like men get turned off when they're really smart. It's almost like a demasculating thing, like an intimidating thing. Like some guys think the girls are too big for their britches or whatever it may be. I like intelligent women. I think they're attractive. I think it's hot.
Positron to someone who's far, far away. In this analogy, opening the envelope is like measuring the spin of the electron, but that causes the wave function of the electron to collapse to just one possibility. In this case, it's plus. But what happens to the other envelope far away? Well, it needs to instantly collapse to minus, because otherwise, when the experimenter opens their envelope, they have a chance of seeing plus, which would violate the conservation of spin. But if it needs to collapse instantly when the electron is measured, then how does it know what to collapse to? It must receive intel from the faraway electron, but that message has to travel much faster than the speed of light to get to the positron in time. And so with this argument, Einstein, Podolsky, and Rosen had shown that the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics really is non-local. Einstein had already shown this in his conference talk, but this argument was even more decisive.
It does seem like it's the same thing, but now it's ramped up and you've got these two separate particles to do those two separate measurements, and one measurement influencing the other measurement definitely feels wrong.
Yeah, exactly. I think he really realized that it's measurements that are the problem in quantum mechanics.
The wave function of a single particle, or of this pair of particles, can end up spread over vast distances. That isn't itself an issue. But when the wave function collapses, the information about that collapse needs to spread everywhere the wave function is. That's what makes quantum mechanics non-local.
The EPR paper didn't just point out this non-locality issue. They proved that there is only one local alternative theory for explaining this experiment. In this local story, instead of the electron choosing whether to be plus or minus when it's measured, it actually makes that choice when it's still in contact with the positron. There's some random way that this plus and minus gets put into these two envelopes.
I mean, this has always been my assumption, right? Is that the spin has already been determined when they're separated. It's just that we don't know until we measure it. So it's not like you have like a superposition of both states in the envelopes until you measure one. It's that it's already been determined, we just don't know it yet.
Which is why the plus and minus are called hidden variables.
Yeah,
and
I mean, that's what it would be, right?
Alternative theory assigns these hidden variables in a local way while they're still in contact with each other, rather than over a big distance. We call this a local hidden variable theory. Now, this local hidden variable theory is going to be able to explain this experiment really simply. Let's pass away the positron. And now, when the electron is measured as a plus, it doesn't have to rush to tell the positron. The positron already knows. There is no action at a distance. This local hidden variable story is so much more sensible than the quantum one.
So we're forced to accept one of two explanations for this experiment. Either non-locality, like the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics, or a local hidden variable theory. Given that non-local action at a distance contradicts relativity, Einstein thought this was definitive proof that the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics is wrong, and therefore there must be some local hidden variable theory that will replace it. Einstein showed us that quantum mechanics allows influences that seem to travel faster than light. But with today's video sponsor, you can have your own spooky action at a distance. With one click, NordVPN can teleport.
I'm gonna need that very soon because I'm banned on fucking everything. Just kidding, I'm not banned on everything, but I'm banned on fucking Reddit. I don't even know why. I'm a bit conspiratorial about it. They said I violated Rule 1 harassment, but like the post had no harassment whatsoever. I wasn't targeting any group. I wasn't shit-talking anybody. I just posted some like statistics. So I don't know. I feel like it's just a pretext to kind of either that, or I have had in the past where like the thread itself is like harassment, and then they banned me, and then I had to file an appeal like, hey, I wasn't agreeing with like this thread. I was actually arguing against it, and then they lifted the ban. I think that might have happened in this case because it was a similar thing where like the thread itself is trying to push like misinformation and harassment, and I was trying to debunk it, and I think I might have gotten auto picked up by like the auto mod, and then when I filed an appeal, maybe I just didn't explain it well, maybe they didn't really look into it properly, and I think maybe they just assumed like I was in the chorus of people pushing the harassment rather than the people like trying to provide some information to debunk it. But you know, what can you do?
Or your digital presence anywhere in the world. You know, it's servers in Arct, Lag, coffee on that network, even your rat phone, NordVPN.
Got a non-local VPN.
For the video.
Without asking Einstein, Podolsky leaked the paper to the press, and the story ended up in the New York Times.
Prodigious harvest of the day's intelligence is reached.
Einstein was the most famous scientist in the world, and he was going after the strange but successful theory of quantum mechanics. So, of course, the press loved it. But what did scientists think of the argument itself?
So the reaction of the physics community was at first mixed. You know, there were some people, sort of old allies of Einstein's, who were very happy with it. Schrödinger being sort of at the top of that list. And in fact, in an attempt to clear up some of the misunderstandings that people were having about the EPR paper, Schrödinger publishes the thought experiment known as Schrödinger's cat, sort of back up Einstein and show the kind of problem that he and Einstein had with quantum physics. Bohr, meanwhile, was like, oh my God, what the hell is this? He must be wrong. How do we show that he's wrong? Then Bohr ultimately, you know, in his sort of painful and complicated style, ends up coming up with a response to the EPR paper. This response is sort of famously obscure and difficult to understand, and I've read it in detail, and I will tell you.
That's it's not encouraging. I mean, if I already have a hard time understanding quantum mechanics in general, if even he's saying that it's hard to understand. Oof.
Bohr's reply is either nonsensical or makes some actual mistakes.
There's a very well-turned sentence which I believe Bohr took a great deal of trouble in formulating, and whose meaning is just absolutely obscure to me.
Bohr said in his reply to EPR, in his multiple replies to EPR, that there is no question of anything non-local going on. So the ultimate reaction of the physics community, at least in the immediate years and decades following the publication of EPR and Bohr's reply in 1935, was to think that Bohr had settled it with his reply, even though people didn't really understand what Bohr had said.
2 decades later,
You might be
Einstein died.
surprised, but this sounds about right for academics. When I was in college, I look back on it now, I think I was young and kind of
You are fit for duty. Return to your post.
like, I don't know, bedazzled, I don't know what the right word would be. Mystified, I guess, by these people who were more intelligent, more experienced than I was. But I look back on some of the conversations that I had where it asked tough questions, and I realized, like, I think some of these professors didn't understand it themselves, but didn't really want to admit it. And I don't mean just specifically quantum mechanics. I mean like questions around other topics. And I think that they wanted to kind of like, oh, here's this like dumbass kid who's asking me a question and it's making me question my own understanding of this. I don't want to look incompetent. So they'd give me answers and they weren't really good answers. And I would kind of be like, oh, okay, I still don't really get it, but, you know, okay. Like, for example, there's this one professor. He did not fucking like me. And I kind of get it. I was a bad student. He didn't like me. I asked him one time, because it was like 3D vector calculus or something, so asking about, like, what is a four-dimensional system like? I have a hard time actually visualizing. Now, I know that's a little bit of a pretentious question, but, you know, it's college. You're supposed to be able to ask these kinds of pretentious questions. And I'm like, I have a hard time visualizing it. You know, are you able to, like, can you help me kind of visualizing? He's like, yeah, you know, he's like, it's not hard. It's not hard to visualize 4 dimensions. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, how do you visualize it then? He's like, yeah, you know, in 3 dimensions, like, every dimension is 90 degrees from the other dimension, right? So all you have to do is just imagine, like, another dimension that's 90 degrees from the other ones. And I realize now, I think that he was just kind of giving me, like, what mathematically the definition of another dimension in that kind of system would mean. But it really doesn't answer the question of, like, how do you actually, like, visualize what that would look like, right? But I think, I don't know. I don't know if he was just frustrated that I would even ask that question. I don't know if he thought I was maybe trying to be a smart ass. I don't know if he was just trying to, like, jerk himself off, right? But, like, it wasn't really a real answer to that question. And I look back on it now and I realize, like, no, it's not that I simply just didn't understand the answer he gave me. It's that his answer was just genuinely not satisfying. And so, yeah, you get situations where, like, academics don't want to admit that they themselves may not understand a thing.
Still questioning quantum mechanics, but the majority of the physics community had moved on without him. Bohr, however, never forgot about the EPR paper. In 1962, 7 years after Einstein's death, Bohr gave an interview about Einstein, and he lamented that Einstein wasted decades on fruitless thought experiments because he simply could not accept quantum mechanics. It was terrible that Einstein fell in that trap to work with Podolsky, Bohr said. Rosen is worse from my point of view. Rosen even today believes the EPR thought experiment. Podolsky has given it up, as far as I know. The whole
loser
idea is absolutely
believing the
nothing when one
EPR
really gets into
experiment.
it.
Can you believe
You may think
this
that
guy?
I say it too strongly, but it is true. There's absolutely no problem in it. The next day, Bohr took a nap after lunch and never woke up. And so,
He got mogged so hard by Einstein, he had to anhero himself.
after many decades, the Einstein-Bohr debate was over.
Bohr's authority was part of the reason the EPR paper didn't get the attention it deserved.
But there was another reason physicists ignored it. In the EPR experiment, both theories, Copenhagen quantum mechanics and Einstein's local hidden variable alternative, make exactly the same prediction. You get the same results either way. Debating 2 different interpretations of the same experimental result seemed like armchair philosophy, not real physics. The Copenhagen interpretation makes good predictions, so why not just teach that and move on?
It just seems like, you know...
Well, the reason you wouldn't is because that sets up premises that lead to false conclusions in the future, because people will build other theories on top of that assumption.
Oh, shut up and calculate, I think is the message.
Also, I'm digging the mustache. I'm sorry, the beard. The beard looks good on him, you know what I mean?
That kind of gets pushed.
The general attitude was, this is done. Who cares? None of this matters. It's all settled. Einstein and Bohr had a big debate about it, and Bohr won. Do you think you're smarter than Niels Bohr? Do you think you're smarter than Albert Einstein?
It seemed like it would be impossible to resolve this debate until another physicist turned his attention to it.
John Bell was an undergraduate student shortly after World War II in this new era of physics, and so, of course, he was taught the Copenhagen interpretation.
John Bell's doubts about quantum mechanics, by his own recollection, showed up basically the minute he learned it. In his first quantum mechanics class, he was, you know, getting pretty upset with the instructors.
And I bet you those instructors are like, fucking asshole, bro. Like, stop asking too many questions. Just accept that this is what it is.
And saying, you're being too vague. What the heck do you mean about measurement?
Bell
Oh,
was
man,
never
so
fully
relatable.
satisfied by the answers he got about the foundations of quantum mechanics. But when he was doing his PhD, he was encouraged to study something a little bit more respectable. And so he studied nuclear physics and went on to have a very accomplished career at CERN. But after 8 years of working in particle physics, in 1963 he took an academic sabbatical. And finally, he had time to focus on his doubts about quantum mechanics. He said, "I always knew that it was waiting for me." He began by re-examining the old debates and the papers that most physicists had long since dismissed as philosophical distractions.
Well, it sounds super nerdy, but there's another world, another lifetime that I fantasize about, where I wouldn't have to deal with like this political bullshit, where I could just be a nerdy fucking student sitting there reading this kind of shit like this and trying to like dive into these scientific things. I would love to do this kind of stuff if I had the time and I didn't have to worry about the money.
Including the EPR paper. After this research, he said, "I felt that Einstein's intellectual superiority over Bohr, in this instance, was enormous, a vast gulf between the man who saw clearly what was needed and the obscurantist. He realized Einstein's logic was sound. One of the two conclusions is true."
The question was, could you prove which one using an experiment?
An experiment of this sort seemed much more feasible by Bell's time. The EPR paper was the first to consider the idea of entanglement. These days, entanglement is a core feature of quantum mechanics, but Einstein had been first to even point out entanglement existed. This is why the EPR paper was set up as a thought experiment, because no one had made such an exotic state of matter in 1935. But in the intervening decades between Einstein's work and Bell's, between 1935 and 1964, entanglement had become a serious topic of study. By Bell's time, there were reliable ways to make it in the lab. In fact, Madame Wu had famously reproduced the EPR thought experiment as a real experiment. But simply doing the EPR experiment in real life isn't enough to tell you which explanation is correct, since both predict the same thing. But Bell wondered if there was another version of the experiment where the non-local and local theories would have to give a different result.
If you're asking that question and you're playing with the EPR setup,
Okay, let's think. Let's see if we can figure this out. How would you conduct an experiment where they would have to produce a different result? Non-locality versus the hidden variable theory. Can you use this experiment to non-locality? You switch state of this one. It affect this one over here. Versus local experiment. Flip the state of this guy. Okay, I'm not coming up with anything.
then it's like, oh, it's literally, not just figuratively, a twist, right?
Here's a simplified version of Bell's experiment. Make your entangled electron and positron again. But now, instead of just measuring them with a Stern-Gerlach machine like this, the experimenters get a choice about how to orient their machine. The three different choices are 0 degrees, 120 degrees, and 240 degrees. This is the twist on the EPR experiment. The experimenters get to choose independently. So the electron might be measured at 0 degrees, while the positron is measured at 240 degrees.
Okay, why would this produce different? Huh.
If both experimenters happen to choose the same axis, then we know what happens. They have to get the opposite result as each other, to conserve spin. The interesting case is when the experimenters happen to choose different axes. The number we want to predict here is the disagreement rate, the probability that the electron's result is different from the positron's. First, let's see what quantum mechanics predicts for this number. Let's say the electron is measured with the 0 degree axis and comes out as plus. Now that its spin has collapsed to positive z, the positron spin needs to instantly collapse to be negative z. This is the non-local part of quantum mechanics. But what happens when this positron is measured by a machine tilted at 120 degrees? You can see that the positron spin is already almost facing the plus end of the machine, so it's much more likely to go to plus. In fact, there's a 75% chance it goes to plus and only a 25% chance it goes to minus. So the disagreement rate is 25%. And we can show that for any two different axes the experimenters select, the geometry is analogous. So they all have this same disagreement rate of 25%. Anytime the experimenters
Okay.
choose
I don't
different
super
axes,
understand
they will
why
get
that's
the
the case,
same
but
outcome
we'll
75% of the time and different
take that for
outcomes
granted.
25% of the time.
Now let's consider the local hidden variable alternative theory. The particles here are on a mission. Their aim? To make you believe that they're acting according to quantum mechanics, when really they're acting locally. Now we are anthropomorphizing, but I think it is really useful to just imagine them this way. We're trying to figure out if it's always possible for them to use a hidden variable theory to get the same experimental outcomes as Copenhagen quantum mechanics, or if in this new situation, our scheming particles won't be able to fool us. You can think of it like this. Each of the particles is going to be asked one of 3 possible questions, and they need to decide on their answer while they're still together, so that they can coordinate on their strategy. When they're done figuring out a plan for how they would answer any of the 3 questions, they pack away those hidden variables into 3 sealed envelopes for each particle. The question is, what strategies should our sneaky particles take to make people believe that they're following quantum mechanics? Remember, quantum mechanics predicted a disagreement rate of 25%, and so our particles want to match that. Whenever they happen to be asked different questions, their answer needs to disagree about 25% of the time. So, what's the best strategy? Well, there's
Okay, I think I understand the probability now. It's because when you measure it at those different axes, the distribution of different answers, you're going to get 25 to 70. Yeah, that makes sense, actually, because you 1/4. 5, yeah.
There's actually only 2 things that they really can do. The first strategy is this. The electron answers the same way for each of its axes, and the positron answers in the opposite way. Let's say the electron answers with minus, and the positron with plus. But this is a terrible idea, because whatever 2 different axes the experimenters happen to choose, the disagreement rate is
0?
100%, which is very different from 25%.
Oh, when they say disagreement, they mean
strategy
positive
doesn't
versus
work.
negative
But
spin.
there's only one other strategy that the particles could use. Instead of the electron doing exactly the same thing for all 3 axes, it does the same thing for any 2 of its axes, and then something different for the last one. Let's just say, for example, that it does this, and then the positron does the opposite. This is just one example, but it turns out for all possible strategies like this, the disagreement rate is going to be the same. Let's imagine first that the experimenter who's measuring the electron happens to measure it in the 120-degree axis, and it gets the answer minus. They make this choice a third of the time. And now to...
Oh, yeah, okay, so here's the issue, is that because you can select what axis you're measuring the other one on, right? It should be positive spin, it should be the opposite. But that's if you're measuring at the same axis on the other one, but you don't have to. You be measuring one of these other 2, in which case you get the negative. But the negative is not the correct answer. They would be in, well, they keep saying disagreement. It's disagreement because they have different signs, but you want them to have different signs. If they both had the same sign, they would be in agreement, but in reality, that's like the wrong answer. They should have negative, like the opposite signs here.
Calculate the disagreement rate, we need to see what happens when the experimenter who's measuring the positron happens to measure a different axis from this one.
Yeah.
So one of these 2. But in either one of these cases, the positron is also a minus, and so the 2 answers agree with each other. And so the answers have no disagreement. And so we can multiply this by 0. But 2/3 of the time, the experimenter who's measuring the electron will happen to measure it in one of the other 2 axes. Let's say this one.
Okay. So we need disagreement risk. Okay. We need to have a negative. We need to have the disagreement here. And the 2/3 is because these 2 axes produce the negative result. This is going to be multiplied by I think what we're removing here is we're manually, we're knowingly, when we do the experiment, removing the same axis. Right, so we're gonna remove this one, and then we're gonna have to multiply by, what is it, the probability between these two? So it'd be like 1/2, I think, is that right?
The experimenter measuring the positron will measure in one of these two axes, but you can see that they only pick an axis that disagrees a half of the time. That's 1/3, which is roughly equal to 33%, which is a different number from the quantum one.
When our scheming local particles are interrogated, their answers for different questions match just a little too often. They simply can't fake the results of Copenhagen quantum mechanics.
So Bella's proof showed that non-local and local theories make different predictions about how often the two results will disagree when the experimenters measure different axes. Non-local quantum mechanics predicts disagreement only 25% of the time. Local hidden variables predicts disagreement at least 33% of the time. So to find out if there really is a local hidden variable theory, you just need to do the experiment.
Okay, so welcome at the Institut d'Optique. You are here in the place where Alain Aspect performed 40 years ago his experiments on the measurement of Bell's inequalities, and here are some of the original pictures of this experiment, which was much more challenging than it is today, and it was a real experimental tour de force.
So is this one of the original equipment from that?
This is one of the polarizer.
It's funny how like they hold on to these things as like I don't know if the right term would be a memento mori. But like to an outside observer, it's just like, oh, here's some like random fucking lab tech. It's like, oh, this vacuum tube is the vacuum tube that John Bell used 1968 or whatever it is.
And this beam is directed towards this element, which is the key element of the setup. So it's a pair of crystals that produces pairs of entangled photons. We will produce a pair of entangled photons, and both are propagating along each of these two arms. They are separated. So here we have the two detection arms, and we can rotate the half-wave plate to change the orientation of the measurement basis.
The experiment that we did with light was a little bit different from the one we described earlier with electrons and protons, so I'm going to explain how they correspond. Here's a little diagram of the photon experiment. So first we have this element that makes the entangled pair of particles. So that's these two. Then the entangled particles go off on separate arms of the experiment.
Not right now, but at some point I need to look into like what actually is the definition of an entangled, because I kind of had this idea in my mind the entire time that like all particles in the universe should be entangled because, you know, at the Big Bang, everything should kind of be at one point. They've all interacted with each other, but I think I read somewhere else that that's not actually what people mean when they mean entangled. I think it needs to, like, they need to have had interactions with each other that kind of cancel out the like the non, how would I put it, like non-recent interactions they've had with other particles. Like their interaction with each other needs to be significantly more relevant, I guess it's not a good word, than any of the interactions they've had with like other particles out in the universe, kind of thing. But I don't have like a good definition of it, so I need to read a little bit. Not right now, but...
In our previous experiment, we could decide the direction that we're going to measure the particles in by rotating the Stern-Gerlach machines. And in this experiment, it's actually...
We have 0, 120, and 240. Are these... Degree, circle. We have 0. Well, no, here, 0, 120, 240. That 120 this direction, right? Because 360 minus 120, and then 120 this, and then 120 plus 120. So this is the unit circle divided into 3, or all of the angles of the circle divided into 3.
Actually really similar. So we have these two polarizers that we're able to rotate independently, and that is going to decide which direction these particles are measured in. And so this experiment with light is completely equivalent to Bell's experiment.
Bell expected that the experiments would show that the predictions of quantum mechanics were correct, and that, you know, there was some kind of non-locality in nature.
Before the first Bell test was done, John Bell said, "In view of the general success of quantum mechanics, it's very hard for me to doubt the outcome of such experiments."
He didn't expect quantum physics to be wrong, because who would bet against quantum physics? You'd have to be crazy.
I mean, is it even saying that quantum physics are wrong, or just one element of quantum physics? Well, I understand that they built so much of quantum physics on top of this assumption, but I wouldn't think that means all of quantum physics is wrong, just that you might have to modify our understanding of some of the things that kind of stem out from it, or maybe even modify some of the equations that came down the line. But I wouldn't think that means all of it. I don't know.
Remember, the two different outcomes for Bell's theorem depend on how often two different measurement axes are going to have results that disagree with each other. Here's how we measure that disagreement rate. First, we're going to start with both of the measurements being in the same direction. And now we expect that these two are always going to disagree with each other because they have opposite spins. So we're going to create a bunch of entangled particles and find out how many of them disagree with each other per second. This is going to give us a measure of the total number of particles coming per second. That's because this device is making loads and loads of entangled particles, and so we just need to know how many of them are coming at a time. Then
rotate 120. This is 240.
One of the axes. And now we measure the number of disagreeing pairs per second. And then dividing these two will give us the disagreement rate. And remember, quantum mechanics predicts that the disagreement rate will only be a quarter, whereas local hidden variables expects this number to be a third.
So I started at 2000, right? And now I have 500. So
basically perfect.
That really works really well.
We did do this experiment again, and the number we got very much agreed with quantum mechanics.
This is non-locality, right?
But this is one of the most misunderstood experiments in all of physics.
You will find in all sorts of physics textbooks and papers and whatnot that what Bell's theorem proves is that it rules out local hidden variables or local realism. John Bell said that was an error. You know, he said, like, it's really quite remarkable how many people make that error.
I always get confused at the conclusion of Bell's theorem, because there's a lot of people who say, like, okay, it rules out hidden variables, or things have to be non-local, or whatever, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think it is super confusing, and when I first learned Bell's theorem, I was told that it rules out local hidden variables.
I've heard this other argument that it sort of disproves either locality or realism.
If you say, okay, it means that you give up local realism, and so that means you somehow have a choice between giving up locality and giving up realism. If you're giving up realism about what? Like you gotta tell me, because like for most definitions of that word, you'd also be giving up locality. So what the hell are you saving? Like I just don't. Yeah, it's a really deep misunderstanding that shows up in almost every single textbook on the subject.
That's pretty bad.
What does Bell's theorem really prove?
Well, here's the logic. Start by assuming...
Bad, in my opinion, to have all these kids graduate with a misunderstanding of something so fundamental to quantum mechanics.
Locality for the entangled particles. Using the EPR argument, the only way for them to coordinate their outcomes is using local hidden variables. Then, Bell's proof showed that local hidden variables predict an incorrect experimental result. Therefore, the assumption of locality must have been wrong.
We're obliged to invoke something like actions going faster than light from one place to another.
The EPR paper by itself had shown that the Copenhagen interpretation is non-local, which is why Einstein thought there must be an alternative way to describe the experiment that is local. But Bell's theorem says that's not true.
Any theory that correctly describes this experiment must be non-local.
But I still I would hesitate to say that that means that Einstein was wrong, right? Because what I would say is this shows that Einstein was right to be concerned about all of this.
People often claim that Einstein's problem was that he simply couldn't accept quantum mechanics, but it was only because he refused to shut up and calculate that he discovered two of the most important aspects of quantum mechanics: entanglement.
Yeah, I think what he's getting at is like, what is the mechanism going on there, right? Because even if we have like this whole non-locality thing, then the question is like, how? Why is that happening? We want to answer that question because, I mean, I suppose maybe we do have information traveling faster than the speed of light, which I don't necessarily have an issue with. Maybe I just don't know enough about like relativity and stuff like that to know why that necessarily has to be the case. I mean, we've assumed for a long time that everything else kind of revolves around this idea that the speed of light is kind of like the universal variable that everything else kind of warps itself around, so to speak. But maybe that's the part that's not true. I don't know.
And non-locality.
The heart of the debate.
I don't know. Maybe we flip things on its head. Maybe we define everything else. Maybe the universal reference frame is the spin states of these entangled particles. Maybe that's really what it is. Maybe the parent-child relationship is flipped around, that light speed appears to be the universal reference because it's like a manifestation of the spin states needing to be consistent with each other and not the other way around. I don't know. I'm talking out my ass right now.
Between Einstein and Bohr was about whether there was a problem, whether there was something to be concerned about. And the major concern that Einstein brought to the table from the beginning was about locality. But you know, what Bell showed was, oh yeah, all that stuff that Einstein was concerned about locality, he was completely right to be worried about it. We have a problem.
If these particles really are acting non-locally, this should cause paradoxes, shouldn't it? Well, it does, but the paradox seems to be surprisingly tame.
Imagine you and your friend are measuring a pair of entangled particles. Suppose an observer sees you measure yours first and then your friend measures hers. That observer thinks that you collapse the overall state of...
Well, here's a question. What if, I know this is probably might be physically impossible, but what if you were to open them at the same time? You know what I mean? What happens then?
both particles, and your friend just finds out the result when she measures. But another observer will see the situation in reverse. They see her measure first and then you. To them, it was her measurement that caused the collapse, not yours.
Okay, but why are they seeing hers first? Is it because the information travels to them first, or is it because, like, physically? I don't know. I guess I need to dive back into relativity to understand this.
But who's right? Which measurement was the cause of the collapse, and which was the effect? It seems to depend on your frame of reference.
This paradox is worrying, but it isn't as bad as the usual faster-than-light paradoxes. In relativity, if you can communicate faster than light, then you can exploit how different observers disagree about timing.
If your friend who's on a rocket sends you an instant message, and you send an instant message back, in some frames of reference, your message can arrive before she even sent the first one. If your message says, "Don't send your original message," and so she doesn't, then you've got yourself a paradox. What prompted you to send this message if she never sent you anything in the first place?
Quantum mechanics sidesteps these paradoxes through a fundamental constraint. The outcomes are random, so you can't send messages faster than light.
When you measure your particle, you get a plus or a minus completely at random. Your friend measuring their particle also gets a random result.
Now the results will be correlated, but they're still completely random, so there's no way to send any faster-than-light message in this way.
That's what prevents us from sending messages back in time.
I don't really understand that part, to be honest.
So quantum mechanics is non-local, but it doesn't lead to the sort of catastrophic paradoxes you...
Oh, you know what? I know I've tried to watch this video before, and I think I was doing it while I was doing something else in the background, or like listening in the background. And because my mind already started going this direction, I think they do start talking about this, which is that I think what's going on is that these particles are connected through like a separate, or through another dimension that we don't typically perceive. And so like, we think of it as if it's like traveling through the 3 dimensions of space time, or the 4 dimensions of space time, faster than light or whatever. But it's like that separate, or that other dimension is a dimension where the length scale there is like the shorter path, I guess.
You might expect from relativity, but it's an uneasy.
Kind of like yeah, I mean, to use like an example from 2D to 3 dimensions, right? If you got like a 2D, I can't even see that. See that now? Okay, we got our 2 X's. So you got like these 2 shapes on a 2-dimensional plane. Obviously, this paper isn't literally 2-dimensional. It's got depth to it, which is not very thick. Well, let's pretend that it's 2-dimensional, right? But we live in a 3-dimensional world. I remember reading, there was a book on like, what was it called? Like the flat zone or some shit like that. Well, the beings that exist in this 2-dimensional space can only experience 2 dimensions. They only understand and perceive 2 dimensions. They don't perceive if I start manipulating their 2-dimensional reality, because they still got to travel along the plane. Even if I do this, they still got to travel that distance along the plane. But me, I exist in 3 dimensions. So I can just travel a dimension from there to there. It's a shorter distance than what they have to travel, because I don't have the limitations of their 2D space. And it would be kind of a similar thing if we exist in our like 3-dimensional space. We perceive these particles being that distance from each other. If whatever the information is being sent between particles for quantum mechanics is being sent through like a separate dimension that's a higher order than us, we don't perceive it happening, but it is happening. And it's not even necessarily happening faster than the speed of light. It's just happening faster than like what we perceive in our limited 3-dimensional experience.
Truce. Quantum mechanics may not break the letter of relativity's laws, but it certainly violates the spirit.
And non-locality isn't the only troubling thing about quantum mechanics. The Copenhagen interpretation still doesn't explain what an electron is really doing, and why it acts so differently when measured.
Despite this, many physicists took Bell's theorem to mean that the Copenhagen interpretation was right all along. Bell himself rejected this.
He spent the rest of his life championing alternative interpretations of quantum mechanics, including the hidden variable interpretation called pilot wave theory or Bohmian mechanics. Bell's theorem doesn't rule this interpretation out, because the pilot wave theory is non-local, just like the Copenhagen interpretation. It was Bell's theorem and Bell's subsequent tireless work that made studying the meaning of quantum mechanics.
Here's another question I have, though, which is why would these states not be determined when the particles, when they're entangled, when they're separated? Why is it determined after you make a measurement? That's the big question I have. They exist. I guess they would exist in like a superposition of wave functions, and the wave functions break down when you interact with the wave. But then that breakdown might be happening over that higher order dimension. So they're existing in like a superposition in that dimension, and then they break down when you interact with it. Maybe. I don't know.
Respectable again.
He showed that mere armchair philosophy and thought experiments can have real consequences in physics.
We need to be teaching quantum physics in a different way. We need to be teaching Bell's theorem in a different way. We do often teach Bell's theorem to physics students, and it's taught as something that rules out local hidden variables. That's just not true. Bell's theorem, says that quantum physics is in very serious tension with relativity on the issue of locality.
John Bell passed away suddenly at the age of 62. He didn't know it, but he had been nominated for the Nobel Prize just a year earlier.
In a talk he gave in Geneva in January 1990, he said, "I think you're stuck with the non-locality. I don't know any conception of locality which works with quantum mechanics." That was 8 months before he died. So pretty much his last word on the subject.
And so that's it. There really are faster than light influences in the universe. Bell's theorem proves it. But maybe there is a way out. There is another way to interpret quantum mechanics that's even more bizarre than the Copenhagen interpretation. Imagine the EPR thought experiment again.
We can think of the entangled state as being in a superposition of the electron being up and the positron down, and the electron being down and the positron being up. In the Copenhagen interpretation, when you measure a particle and you get only one result, say plus, the other part of the superposition collapses. But in our examples, we've seen that measurement collapse seems to be the source of non-locality. So why don't we just get rid of collapse altogether?
This is what the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics proposes.
When you measure a particle, instead of you collapsing the particle to one outcome, both outcomes happen, and there's two parallel versions of you who sees each outcome. You
Oh
become
yeah, of
entangled
course,
with
it's
your
this
particle
concept
because your
of
state
parallel
depends on what
universes.
the particle is doing.
It sounds strange, but there's one huge benefit of this interpretation.
When your friend is about to measure her electron, your positron doesn't need to rush to tell the electron what the answer will be. There are already two versions of the electron, and they contain the right answer for each version of her. There was no need for faster-than-light communication to explain the EPR experiment.
But how is that possible? Doesn't Bell's theorem prove that the two particles must communicate faster than light?
Well, in Bell's proof, we assumed that all measurements have just one outcome. But that assumption just isn't true in many worlds. This means that technically, that proof doesn't even apply in the many worlds case.
So is many worlds local? In one sense, no, because just like in Copenhagen quantum mechanics, entangled pairs can be separated by a huge distance and still share their state. However, it is local, unlike Copenhagen,
just like
in the sense that
sidesteps it all
these
together.
faraway entangled particles do not influence each other faster than light. Many worlds obeys Einstein's universal speed limit.
But is it really worth accepting that there are many versions of you in parallel universes just to recover locality? Well, locality isn't the only reason many worlds has become more and more popular.
I also really like many worlds, because Copenhagen never sits right. And when you start telling the story, right, of like what happens at measurement, it's like, well, what is a measurement? It's when you have like this quantum system and there's some other system which is like much larger, and so, you know, but it always feels a little bit arbitrary. Whereas this argument that every time two
I am seeing your
particles are
chat, by the way.
interacting, their wave functions are essentially, you know, combining and becoming entangled. That to me feels more consistent.
Yes, I think that's right. What do you think are like the problems with many worlds?
The biggest problem is, I think, people's struggle to deal with sort of the infinity that
yeah.
brings forth.
For sure.
But I don't know that that's necessarily an argument against it. Just because it's hard to imagine doesn't mean it's not what's happening. If many worlds is right, everything changes. The conflict between quantum mechanics and relativity vanishes. Physicists have been struggling for decades to unite quantum mechanics with general relativity to build a theory of quantum gravity. And maybe we've been failing because we've been trying to marry relativity to a non-local theory. But if quantum mechanics ultimately turns out to be local, well then Einstein's dream of a local description of reality might not be dead after all.
So I thought we were gonna have more. I thought we might get into like higher order dimension stuff. Okay. I noticed with his videos sometimes that he'll build up to like a larger thing that he's been thinking about. So like we had this video on discovery antimatter, which in the ending of this video kind of got to the idea of maybe we have, what was it, positrons that are moving backwards in time. Then we have this one, which we're talking about faster than light information, right? But that might couple together with these two things, like the concept of having things that are moving backwards in time, or what is the directionality of time. Then we have this guy. I don't know what retiring has to do with any of this. I don't think this one's really related, but we're talking about, actually, I wanted to watch this one. I had this playing in the background the other day, but I didn't have a chance to actually look at it, and this is one of those videos where I feel like you actually have to be able to see what's going on screen to appreciate the technology. And then we have this one about being able to slow down the resolution of like image taking, and I feel like a lot of this is starting to talk about like how we're measuring time kind of thing. So I'm kind of curious what it puts out next, because I feel like sometimes he builds towards like a larger kind of idea that like synthesizes these things. But anyways, let me see what you wrote here. I really do wonder what the implications to unified quantum mechanics and general relativity, as in what would be unilaterally changed once, or if we discover a way to... Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, Physics at this point, like these kind of questions are so abstracted from kind of like our day to day. So yeah, that is a good question. All right, well, hey man, it was nice talking to you. We'll touch base in the future. I'm gonna wrap it up for tonight. If you're watching in the future, okay, I'm traveling through positrons right now. I don't know what that means, but anyways, have a good one. Bye. See you guys later.